Welcome to LTMB Live, everybody. Thank you for being here. Let the madness begin. My name is Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White.
Happy to be back over a long weekend.
Oh, for real, man. I'm ready to get back into it, man.
I'm saying, man, lots is going on around the world. Much to talk about. What's going on, Moose Gal and Chris? Good afternoon. You must be on the west side.
Yeah, I know, right? He must be on that west coast.
Hell yeah. All right, we're here on Facebook as well. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for being here for LTMB Live.
With your favorite C-list YouTube stars.
Yeah, C-list.
Or your favorite C-list.
As if that's an insult.
I didn't, you know what's so funny is I didn't know there were grades in this thing. We just kind of found out, you know what I'm saying? We were graded by someone.
On the YouTube level.
On the YouTube
stars.
level. Yeah, on the YouTube level of stars. So yes, somebody, a dear friend of ours.
Very dear.
Graded us.
True friend.
True friend. Yes.
All right. Today is June 19th. Juneteenth.
Oh, that's right.
Juneteenth, of course, commemorates the ending of slavery in the United States of America. Hence the name. Well, I mean, it's June 19th, Juneteenth. It's just shortened to say that. But as the story goes, back in 1865, it was Major General Gordon Granger that made his way to Galveston, Texas, and he alerted the people, the fine people there. He alerted them that slaves were no longer a thing.
And they just complied right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right then and there. They were like, okay. Matter of fact, they were like, man, I'm glad you told us.
Yeah, exactly. They were happy to hear this news, right? And that's one of the interesting things that, of course, after they were alerted that slavery is over and that no matter what color skin you had, you were equal to anybody else, slavery didn't end. For, a lot of people, it didn't end because, of course, this was the South, and the South wanted to preserve slavery, so they did try to preserve it for, a while, as long as they could. But another thing that's interesting is that 2.5 years before Major General Granger made his way to Texas, it was already
outlawed.
Yeah, abolished.
It was already outlawed.
Yeah. But of course, I mean, I kind of understand why it didn't make its way.
It's not like the mugs had like Facebook. It's not like the mugs had like Snapchat.
Yeah.
It's not like they had like, you know what I'm saying, like social media, the internet, like I guess very expeditious ways of communicating with each other.
Well, that's and that's one, you know, that's I mean, that's a fine reason. But another one is that these states, these southern states, were the ones actually fighting against the North, right? The Union. So even if word did make it down to them, where they've been like, oh yeah, you know, the president and the Union that we're fighting, the Union that we left to preserve slavery, oh, we're gonna go ahead and like tell all our slaves that they don't got to be slaves no more. It wouldn't have went down like that.
Nah, kicking and screaming, man. Yeah. Kicking and screaming, man.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I mean, so there's, you know, celebrations and, you know, demonstrations, stuff like that on this day all the time, you know, annually. I believe that it should be a national holiday.
Yeah. Huh.
I do, because...
I mean, why do you think it should be a national holiday?
If July 4th is a national holiday?
Because that's supposed to represent a day of independence. But unfortunately, that particular day that we celebrate as Independence Day doesn't represent everyone's independence. So yeah, it does make sense that this Juneteenth should be nationally celebrated, should be a national holiday.
But see, the reason why it should be, I understand that it didn't represent everybody's freedom, but it represented everybody's equality, right?
Oh, Juneteenth?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, theoretically, yeah.
Theoretically, it celebrates everybody's equality. So there's no good reason why it shouldn't be a national holiday.
Oh, I mean, you sound quite sensible. It seems like a logical...
Too sensible?
Too sensible. A little bit too sensible. When I mean too sensible is it's not going to get considered. It's not going to be considered.
I agree.
I mean, you would think that, you know, that would be kind of a good gesture, even if it's just like something superficial to make people feel good.
Yeah, so because of course, yeah, especially
because we know Americans like feeling good about stuff superficially. So why wouldn't they go forth with something like that?
Yeah, and then, you know, given the backgrounds of people that may take up this cause, you would have to speculate that, hey, they're just doing it for good, you know, for good
publicity,
publicity. They're pandering, blah blah blah. But still, it would be the right thing to do.
Most holidays are pandering, even if they do they represent something, but they are pandering.
That's true.
Everybody uses those holidays to kind of like format their, I guess, I don't know, their like patriotism. You know what I'm saying, to the public. So
maybe we should write a letter to the White House.
Yeah, that'll work.
Address it to President Trump.
Well, maybe before that, you should just maybe make a video. We can make a video talking about how great he is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. See, you're yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We can do one of those type videos. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just for a second though,
like because if you copy the success of others, then you tend to have success.
Others
yourself.
Others meaning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's right.
DNS. Yeah. Yeah, they've had success.
Yeah,
they've even gained an audience.
All we do is gotta make a video just saying like how great Trump is and how he has 2 black fans in a burgundy state
with dreadlocks,
and be like, yo, you're the best. You know what I'm saying? We support you. Do the Kanye West thing, and then do the Kim Kardashian thing,
right?
And say, hey, make Juneteenth a national holiday.
And he might actually do it. There's an idea.
Just appeal to his ego. Might happen, though.
There's an idea. That's an idea.
Nah.
All right, so let's get into you know, what's all the rage right now. Multiple conversations on this whole immigration policy of the Trump administration. It's been going on for some weeks now, but recently has gained a lot more, I guess, a lot more coverage. Because before, you know, we were talking about the conflation of issues. Remember, we were talking about with the whole separating families, and then the kids that were coming alone.
I think
to the border.
Yeah, I think that's important. That's a good way to start it off,
right?
Because people who are having an issue with this topic are conflating 2 different things,
right?
Or they're when they choose to pass blame, they're passing blame to another administration in regard to something else. It kind of reminds me of the conversation about the 1,500 plus missing kids, or the kids that went missing.
That's what we're talking
somehow
about,
we talked about that like about a month ago. Somehow it got magically changed into a human trafficking issue, even though there was nothing found. There was no evidence of that. They just lost contact with these kids. It doesn't mean that they were not in a secure location, that they were not at an actual residence, that they were not where they were supposed to be. It's just that they couldn't track them. So that got changed into a human trafficking issue. We don't know how that happened, but it did.
It just magically
happened. And the same thing with this. The issue with parents and children being separated got kind of the conversation got shifted to the last administration, but in regard to something different. This situation we're talking about now is not just individuals who are undocumented, but individuals who are seeking asylum.
Right. People that are either coming to the border and they're crossing the border illegally, or even if they're seeking asylum. It's both cases where the children with those parents are being separated from them, and that is a new policy of this current administration that wasn't I guess that wasn't in place during the previous administration of Obama's.
And if it was in place, it wasn't in place like under the same context, right? Like the Obama administrations had limits on how long they could actually keep kids. It was like, I can't remember, it was like 20 or 30 days. The Trump administration's new agenda is to kind of make the detention of these kids indefinite. They want to keep them indefinitely. But again, we don't need to conflate this whole separating of kids with, let's say, kids coming across the border unattended, minors. So
anyway, a lot of things have drawn, I guess a lot of things have drawn more focus on this, and I guess more uproar on this. And I guess we can go back to last week with Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So he made some comments to law enforcement officials on Thursday, saying, well, first of all, he quoted the Bible as a way to, I guess, excuse the administration, or to say that it is permissible and that it is just for the administration to separate families. So what he actually said was that persons who violate the law of our nation are subject to prosecution. Okay. All right. Pretty tame statement. But then he followed it up with, I would cite you to the Apostle Paul and his clear and wise command in Romans 13 to obey the laws of the government because God has ordained them for the purpose of order. So he's throwing out the Bible to say that, hey, people are coming here, they're breaking the law, so we have every reason, we have every right, it's moral, it's just to prosecute these individuals.
There were a lot of things that were laws in this country, right?
I guess that's where I'm going. Because to cite the Bible, which has no relevance in our government because we are not a theocracy, right? Has no relevance on how we govern as a nation.
According to its own founding documents. Yeah.
Yes, and they always cite the forefathers of the nation. They always cite the Constitution. But anyway, but to cite the Bible as a way of saying that laws should be followed and we have every right to prosecute those individuals that break laws, like Mike just said, there are many laws that have been enacted in this nation throughout the years that have been unjust. There were these things there were these things back in the like mid 1900s called like Jim Crow laws, and they weren't good. They weren't moral.
But they were laws though, Will, and
yeah, they were laws.
And like the Bible says, laws are here to be followed.
Laws are here to be followed. So it would have been like appropriate for the government to, I guess, find those individuals, prosecute those individuals that are breaking these laws.
According to Jeff Beauregard, according to Jeffrey
Beauregard,
Beauregard Sessions, yeah.
So if a black person back in these Jim Crow law days, if they had I don't know, stepped into a white establishment and tried to
drink out of like a particular water fountain.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say just probably
just
order a burger,
order some juice,
something like that. You know, drink
soda,
some juice, something like that.
Pop.
Just being in the establishment was a violation. But yeah, if I was outside the establishment and there was coloreds only or whites only, and I was like, man, forget that. I'm gonna drink from this whites only. Since it's against the law, I should be prosecuted. And those individuals that believe in the law, they should use a Bible to say that I should be prosecuted.
Or if you were like, you got caught in a sundown town. You know what I'm saying? Like you were caught in a certain town that you weren't supposed to be in after dark. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the law.
It's the law. So, I mean, that's the kind of individual this dude is. And the passage that he cited too in that Bible too that had been used before to excuse and justify slavery back in the day, back in the 1800s, I believe. So, you know.
But I mean, are you surprised though?
No,
I mean,
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. And it wasn't just him that. Well, I mean, it was him that said it, but then it was other people that backed him up.
Your girl.
Yeah,
your girl,
the press
secretary,
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she backed it up.
Who's kind of been, I wouldn't call it AWOL, but she's been kind of missing lately. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but she backed it up during one of her press conferences or just her conferences with the media. Also, President Trump defended Sessions. He said, "quote He's following laws very simply that were given to us and forced upon us by the Democrats. The Democrats gave us the laws."
Was it a law? Was it law?
It's not a law.
It's not a law.
There's no law in the books that mandates that children be separated from parents when they cross the border.
Okay, the next question is, whose idea was it? Like, who was this? Who was it introduced by?
Wasn't it? Well,
it wasn't.
I remember last year. Then Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, John Kelly, talked about it.
And now John Kelly is Chief of Staff, right?
Yes, he is.
And he's talked about it on the media.
Yes, he has.
Not only has John Kelly talked about it, your boy Jeffrey, Jeffrey has talked about it too.
That's right.
Live.
Yep.
And they talked about it being a new policy.
Not only did they talk about it being a new policy, they talked about it being a deterrent.
Thank you. That's exactly where I was going next.
Both of them.
A deterrent, I guess, that's aimed at people who come over here. That's like correct. A punishment.
Yes.
And they basically said, hey, they won't get their children taken away if they don't break the law.
That's correct. So no, I'm going somewhere else now. No, you go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that's an important distinction if we're going to actually make comparisons to what Obama did, and we are by no means like defending Obama, but I do think it is important to kind of like add context to each of these situations, because we can't actually say there was a double standard. Really, we can't really say that, because I think part of the reason why I guess people have reacted to this administration and Trump the way they have is not just because of the policy. So let's just say the Obama administration had the same policy, which they didn't actually, but let's just say they did. I think we didn't have a chance to see a reaction from Obama's administration. Right. I think that is the issue. Since it wasn't highlighted back then, let's just say, if it was an issue, let's just say it was highlighted back then, how would the Obama administration have responded to it? And that's the question. I think the problem that people have is how this administration has responded to it, and not just the issue of children being separated from their parents. I think it's been prolonged by the responses by the White House and by, I guess, media that backs the White House, like Fox News. You see what I'm saying? So, and this, just like we brought up, the Obama administration did not have an attorney general that used the Bible to justify this agenda. Obama's chief of staff did not go to the media and talk about how they were going to enact a certain policy. I didn't see that. The press secretary did not defend the policy and didn't defend the use of the Bible to defend the agenda. So
all this is new.
Like I guess the way this administration is reacting to it is new and fresh. Like, even if you're going to bring up some sort of comparison of what the Obama administration did, I think you kind of have to consider the context of how this administration has responded to it. And also, one thing I don't think we've mentioned yet is the fact that Donald Trump is using the conditions of these kids as some sort of bargaining tool to get their immigration agenda, I guess, rolling, basically using them as hostages. It's like, hey, I mean, it's Democrats' fault. They don't want, to do anything on immigration. So, hey, I had to do it. You know what I'm saying?
What strikes me is that just like language that Donald Trump uses, saying that it's the Democrats' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's not us, right? So basically what I hear is that the Democrats are forcing us, the Trump administration, to act immorally. Like, they're not stopping us from acting immorally. So it's their fault. Like, we have no agency in this whatsoever.
Oh, so he has like this weird way of admitting he's like a horrible human being.
Yeah, but he's putting that on somebody else. Like, he's the one that's actually enacting these policies, but it's not his fault because the Democrats won't stop them.
The vileness is necessary.
Yes,
and the fault of someone else.
And the fault
if the Democrats wouldn't be obstructionists and I guess play with the ball in our court,
right? Then
this is necessary. We didn't want to do it, but we had to do it.
So we have some videos, and this first video is actually he was speaking to. This was from Monday, I believe, and he was speaking in front of. Let me see, where was this at? Monday. You know what? Forget it. I forgot what he said, but he was speaking to a group of people at the White House, and it was a long speech. It was about 22 minutes, but really the purpose of it was to talk about space, and we'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that. But at the beginning, he touched on immigration. So this is the first video, or the first clip of video from that.
Immigration is the fault. And all of the problems that we're having, because we cannot get them to sign legislation. We cannot get them even to the negotiating table. And I say it's very strongly the Democrats' fault. They're they're really obstructionist, and they are obstructing. The United States will not be a migrant camp, and it will not be a refugee holding facility. Won't be. You look at what's happening in Europe, you look at what's happening in other places, we can't allow that to happen to the United States, not on my watch. We could have an immigration bill, we could have child separation. We're stuck with these horrible laws. They're horrible laws. What's happening is so sad, and it can be taken care of quickly, beautifully, and we'll have safety.
You see, this is what I mean. So he was speaking in front of the National Space Council, and this is what I mean by he's not taking like any of the responsibility for what's happening. He's saying that it's very sad. It's very sad what's going on with these kids. They're being separated from their families.
He's like detached from it.
Yeah, he's completely detached. He's actually witnessing it from afar. Like, it's not even his responsibility whatsoever. Like, his administration did not enact this new policy. It's like the fall of Democrats.
Again, like, let's just say he's telling the truth about the Democrats not wanting to play ball, not wanting to come to the table, as it comes to immigration. Let's just say that that's true. Okay. Like, even if I agree with him on that, what does that have to do with them going forth with their policy of separating children from their parents? Like, what does that have to do? What does one have to do with the other? Democrats don't want to do anything on immigration. Okay, that's one issue, but it doesn't force them to move forward with this new agenda. I don't understand what one has to do with the other. I don't think he is. I think he's already calculated that people won't care that they have nothing, you know what I'm saying, to do with one another.
Right. Also, he pointed to what's going on with Europe and migrants over there, and it's leading to a rise in crime. In another speech that he was given, I believe that was today, and we're going to get some video of that as well. He talked about Germany and how the crime rate in Germany has risen by 10%, which is complete fiction. It has not risen to 10%, or it hasn't risen by 10%. Actually, over the last 25 years, they're at a low. They're at a 25-year low crime rate in Germany, even though they have accepted migrants into the country.
We are used to Trump sharing false crime statistics, though, right, Will?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is nothing new.
But
this is bait to his base. So also, there's another clip from this speech that he was given for the National Space Council.
We have the worst immigration laws in the entire world. Nobody has such sad, such bad, and actually in many cases, such horrible and tough. You see about child separation. You see what's going on there. We want a merit-based immigration system so that Boeing and Lockheed and all of the people, Grumman, all of the people that are here today, the heads of every company, so that you can hire people on a merit base. You know they're coming in. They're people that came on merit, not based on a lottery or not people that snuck across the border. And they could be murderers and thieves and so much else.
Oh, so we had an immigration system that wasn't merit-based. So he's talking about corporations and workers. So Lockheed. So Boeing. So he's kind of referring to work visas. So
we don't have a process.
We don't have a process.
Yeah.
Do you know there's a long ass waiting line to get one? Just say, they just be shelling them out just like that?
But also what he's saying is that, well, I guess an extension of that is that there's not a process whatsoever.
We don't have immigration courts.
Exactly.
We don't have immigration courts.
It's like what he's saying is that the front door is wide open. People are just running in. They're able to go wherever they want to, do whatever they want to. There is no system. There is no process whatsoever. So these people can be murderers. Let's scare people of the United States of America. They could be murderers. They could be thieves. They could do whatever, man. We don't know.
There's no background check process according to Trump.
There's a vetting process, isn't there? Like these people, there's a border, right? There's a border, and there is border patrol. So when people do come through, even if they come through illegally, most of the time they get caught.
But no matter if they're caught undocumented after they've crossed the border, or whether they're coming over the border seeking asylum,
right?
They have to go through extensive background checks.
There's a process. But they could be murderers, though. They could be murderers. Like the people that come in illegally. Oh, no, they're not murderers. They couldn't be murderers.
That's interesting that he says that.
Yeah.
Like that only the people who come here illegally, in quotes, can be the murderers.
Right.
Like that's not possible. That cannot happen if someone goes about it the right way.
Exactly. Yeah, because, people aren't fleeing violence, political retribution,
cartels,
gangs, they're not fleeing violence. They're not just trying to come to a better situation for them and their kids, like starvation. No, all of this stuff does not exist. No, they're murderers, they're thieves, they're rapists.
That seems to be his go-to, though. You know what I'm saying? That seems to be his go-to.
So it was the current Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security who said, you know what, before I go to her, you know what?
We're going to play that clip?
Yeah, you know what? Let's go to Ann Coulter.
Oh, all right. Man, I didn't think you were going to go to her this
early,
man.
man, because I don't know if it was him following Ann Coulter. I don't know if he already had it into his mind. But it seems like Ann Coulter spoke one day. It was yesterday, Monday night on Fox News. And then the next day, here on Tuesday, Trump said the same type of language that she was mouthing off on Fox News last night.
There were some interesting parallels between what Ann Coulter said on that Fox segment, and then what he then said in the later speech.
Yeah. So let's play. If you can stomach it, here's what Ann Coulter said on Fox News.
And I would also say one other thing, these child actors weeping and crying on all the other networks 24/7 right now. Do not fall for it, Mr. President. I get very nervous about the president getting his news from TV because I also have an Adios America in New Yorker.
I don't know if I don't know if that's...
New Yorker is not a conservative publication. They describe.
So I told you we wouldn't get a word in. I told you.
These kids are being
I'm so sorry. We have to go.
They're given scripts to read by liberals, according to the New Yorker. Don't fall for the actor children.
Okay.
Okay. I saw an article actually pointing to this interview. And the title of the article was something like, watch the soul of Ann Coulter's leave her body as she's speaking.
She had a soul to begin with?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I think that left a long time ago.
Yeah,
right?
I know, man. That sack of skin, it looked like she's a crisis actor trying to play like she's a human.
But her whole claim, you know, she's pointing to this article on the New Yorker, right? And so she was pressed for details later on because nobody knew what she was talking about. So she actually pointed to this article. I think it was an article, I think it was based in 2011. It had to do with this African woman that was seeking asylum here in the United States of America. And she had an attorney, and the attorney was suggesting that she claimed that she had been raped, or, you know, she was fleeing being raped, you know, violence in her country. So that's what Ann Coulter was pointing to. The only problem is that the article did not say anything about child actors. It didn't say anything about liberals presenting child actors with scripts to read. It didn't say anything about that. It was just highlighting how broken our immigration system is. Didn't say anything. There's a lot of things to that, but why would she say liberals? Like, why would she specifically say liberals are feeding scripts to these child actors at the border? Like, first of all, how they get into them?
Because remember that congressman?
Yes.
He couldn't even get into the detention facility. He couldn't get in himself.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how just random libs are coming up in these detention facilities.
It makes no
with
sense.
Little pamphlets.
Yes, they're feeding them like actual scripts.
Actual scripts.
For the hold up, check it, hold on. Okay. I don't know how to read English.
You know what that is? You know what that is? That's them trying to come up with some sort of, I guess, cover for how bad things are. You know what I'm saying? You got to come up with some sort of narrative or some sort of story, I guess, to give cover for what's going on. So that tells me that she knows what's going on is kind of a human rights violation.
She knows that.
She knows that. But there's the only way she could spin it is to say that it's not real. Essentially, it's fake news.
Also, if these lawyers, I mean, like, if this was actually real, like, who's paying for these lawyers?
Exactly.
Like, who's paying for these lawyers? What are you talking about?
I'll give you one guess.
Good.
You already know.
The man himself?
The man himself. George
Soros. Yeah.
Must be him.
He's the go-to.
He's the go-to.
He's the go-to.
He's the go-to.
TMZ actually caught up with her later on. I think it was earlier today, and was talking to, you know, just asking some follow-up questions, saying that, or asking her, hey, you know, this is immoral, you know, and, you know, these kids are being separated from their children, you know, I mean, like, what's going on there? How could you think that? And she responded by saying that, hey, these individuals are breaking the law. So do you want us to go ahead and let out somebody like, who'd she say? She said, what was that dude's name? The dude, the Ponzi scheme guy?
Blagojevich?
No.
Madoff.
Bernie Madoff. Yeah, she suggested that we let out Bernie Madoff because his kids are suffering. It's not even one and the same. Not even one and the same.
91% of those who have crossed the border and they have, I guess they have attained some sort of charge, it's a federal misdemeanor.
Right.
91% of those that have crossed the border.
And see, you're speaking of a system, right? So nobody says that there shouldn't be a system. Nobody's saying that, because I don't know if I don't think anybody is advocating that the door should be wide open. There should be nothing like guarding the border. There should be nobody overseeing this process. Just let everybody in and have at it, Hoss. Nobody's saying that whatsoever. So, what people are saying is that if you're going to detain these parents, why not detain the children with those parents? There's a system, right? Why split the system up? Why split? Because if you detain them separately, now they're on separate legal tracks. So we're going to come to a situation where either the parents or the kids might be deported before one or the other is deported. You understand? So why would you do that? Why would you do that?
See, it's interesting because your girl, the DHS secretary, she knows the law.
Yeah, she knows the law.
Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions knows the law and knows, I guess, what kind of crime being undocumented is. So they know. So the fact that they are conflating crimes, conflating like serious crime with the crime of being undocumented, it's just they're being disingenuous.
They have to be,
because it's definitely not the same as, let's say, parents who have been caught, I guess guilty of assault and battery, or accused of assault and battery, or accused of grand larceny, or like some sort of extreme case of criminality somehow has been compared to just not having a document. Yeah.
Like if you're on the road driving drunk, your kids are in the car, you're going to be separated from your kids. You should be separated from your kids. You put your kids in danger, right? When you cross the border illegally with your children, you're doing that as a unit, right? They're with you, all right? They shouldn't be held separately. They shouldn't be prosecuted separately. They're in this as a unit. There's no good reason to do what the Trump administration has done.
There's no good reason that we can think of.
No,
I'm pretty sure they can think of a lot of good reasons.
Right. But anyway, so that was Ann Coulter. And just today, when Trump was speaking it was a small business owners meeting, but it's a very conservative group. I believe the name of the group was the National Federation of Independent Business. Like I said, these are some staunchly conservative folk. But anyway, this is Trump seemingly taking a cue from Ann Coulter.
Democrats love open borders. Let the whole world come in. Let the whole world, MS-13, gang members from all over the place, come on in. We have open borders. And they view that, possibly intelligently, except that it's destroying our country. They view that as potential voters. Someday, they're going to vote for Democrats because they can't win on their policies, which are horrible. They found.
That's the wrong clip. Let me get to the right clip.
They have professional lawyers. Some are for good, others are do-gooders, and others are bad people. And they tell these people exactly what to say. They say the following. They write it down. I am being harmed in my country. My country is extremely dangerous. I fear for my life. Say that. Congratulations. You'll never be removed. This is given to them by lawyers who are waiting for them to come up. And they're not all bad people. They're impractical people. But in a way, that's cheating because they're giving them statements. They're not coming up for that reason. They're coming up for many other reasons, and sometimes for that reason.
I mean, in theory, there might be people coming over who are seeking asylum that lie about why they're doing it.
Yes.
Who may not be truthful about
That's very
why
possible.
they're doing it. It's very possible that that occurs, that they don't really have a real reason to escape. They just already know their situation is bad, and they don't want to wait for a reason. They don't want to wait to have a reason. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Simply because you're seeking asylum, it doesn't necessarily mean you have personally experienced something. Mm-hmm. It's like somebody you know or a family member could have personally experienced something, and you don't want to experience that in the country you live in, so you seek asylum. Mm-hmm. Like the case that you talked about with the lady from Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that happening. You know, she may or may not have been raped, but people she knows may have. Her mother or her sister or brothers. Anybody in her family could have been raped. And
they're preempting what might happen.
They're preempting what might happen. You don't want to kind of
not just what might happen, but what
has happened.
Yeah, what has happened, and is very plausible to happen.
Yeah. So I mean, in like one sense, he could be telling the truth, but I don't think like the context of how he brings it up is quite accurate. You see what I'm saying?
I agree. Like I said, this is just like I said, this is just bait that he's throwing to his base. Does he have any evidence that there are actually lawyers waiting for these kids? Does he have any evidence that they're actually being provided scripts? No, this is just stuff that he says to get people all irritated, and so that they will excuse these horrible and inhumane actions. That's all that it is, right?
And again, another thing that they are doing is passing blame to the Obama administration.
That's right.
But to me, that just doesn't seem constructive. You don't establish kind of retroactive blame onto an administration that's not in office right now.
But that's the style of this administration.
I mean,
seemingly every decision that he makes, he has to compare it to the last.
I mean, if the point is to further the conversation about solutions and what needs to be done, cool. I'll buy that. You know what I'm saying? If you are kind of referencing the last administration and the administration before that to highlight what we need to do to move forward, I'm actually okay with that. But that's not what's happening in this case. People are just saying, including the Trump administration and people that support the Trump administration, they're just saying Obama did it too. Nothing to see here. You see what I'm saying? They don't think. You see what I'm saying? There's. My problem is, if there wasn't enough that was said, or enough that was done, or enough publicity that was given to the Obama administration for the same issue, if it indeed was the same, which it wasn't, okay, I'm willing to accept that. But the people that are trying to bring attention to this issue right now actually are trying to get something done. If you are just hearkening back to some other administration, all you are telling me is that you are okay with human rights violations.
That's true.
So if you're just mad that it wasn't brought up in the Obama administration, that's kind of empty.
And see, look at the many things that they have, I guess, stated about this policy. They said it was unchanged from the previous administration under Obama. It was unchanged. This is the same policy. It's a law. The same thing was being done in previous administrations. Then they, I heard that that it was a deterrent. We talked about that earlier, how even last year, John Kelly, who was the then Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, said it would be a deterrent, and Jeff Sessions has said the same thing. So we've heard two different things. Then we heard that there is no policy. The current Secretary of Homeland Security, Kirstjen Nielsen, said on Twitter, "We do not have a policy of separating families at the border, period."
So what you're saying is there's conflicting narratives coming out of the same administration.
That's right.
So how can you say that it was a policy during the Obama administration, but then say there is no policy?
They're just scrambling here because they know how bad it looks. And it's not just that liberals or Democrats are taking this issue and they're outraged by it. Republicans are outraged as well. And to be honest, these Republicans or conservatives, whatever you want to call them, a lot of these people are not with liberals on the subject of immigration. Okay, so a lot of these individuals could believe in building the big Trump wall. A lot of these individuals could believe in no pathway to citizenship or just what have you. But they don't find a good reason for separating families either. So they realize that there's a process as well, and let that process play out. Like we've talked about the previous administration with Obama and deporting people, and we've had a lot of critical things to say. But this is new from the Trump administration. So we can criticize the last administration for the things that Obama did and his administration did, and we can also criticize this administration as well.
And of course, there's a different kind of context surrounding this particular administration, especially Donald Trump. I think like a lot of the dissatisfaction people have with this current topic, it's not in a vacuum. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's built up to this. It's built up to this because we've talked about it on this show, and it's his kind of abrupt ending of or his attempted abrupt ending of the DACA program. Right. We talked about his attack on sanctuary cities and ongoing attack, and trying to force these local municipalities to do the work of ICE, without any talk of more federal funds being diverted. We also talk about the increased number of ICE raids. So we also talk about how he talks about his immigration policy in regards to dehumanizing people. Right. So it's kind of like it's been snowballing up to this point, and for people to kind of put this situation in a vacuum as if this conversation is unwarranted, to me is a bit disingenuous. And another thing about Trump's comments concerning the Democrats and the Obama administration having an open door policy and letting everybody in. Well, if that's how can it be both though? How can they have an open door policy and let everyone in and be a part of this new policy? No, I'm sorry, it's not new. It's not new, but it's a continuation. So how can it be a continuation? Both a continuation, which this kind of agenda is harsh. They're saying this harsh agenda that they're kind of enacting now is a continuation, but at the same time, they were letting people through. Which is it?
They weren't following the law, I guess. The Obama administration wasn't following the law, but the Trump administration will follow the law. Zero tolerance policy.
Like I think at the end of the day, like people tend to be steered in a direction in situations like this that shifts blame to individuals, singular administrations, right? And kind of like not see this whole human rights issue as an inherent characteristic of the United States. Because at the end of the day, this is not Trump. This is not Obama. This is not Bush. This is not Clinton. This is America.
Yep. So there's another clip of him talking about the Democrats from earlier today, in front of that conservative, the conservative group of small business owners that we wanted to show you.
Democrats love open borders. Let the whole world come in. Let the whole world, MS-13 gang members from all over the place, come on in. We have open borders. And they view that, possibly intelligently, except that it's destroying our country. They view that as potential voters. Someday, they're going to vote for Democrats. Because they can't win on their policies, which are horrible. They found that out in the last presidential election. In fact, their only policy was that Donald Trump is a bad guy. He's a bad person. Vote against Trump. And they said it so many. There's hundreds of millions of dollars of negative ads. Nobody's ever been hit like that. I used to go home. I started disliking myself. It's true. I said, man, am I that bad?
Why he acting like Republicans on this like hot streak of winning elections? This mug is like a year and a half into being inaugurated, and all of a sudden it's like he's trying to
dominating.
Yeah, he's trying to like I guess paint a picture that like his policies, his economic policies somehow outclass that of Democrats.
2 points there about the open borders. First of all, again, there's no open border policy. And two, I like the position that he's putting us and anybody that has any kind of reason to them. The position that he's putting you and us into is siding with Democrats. he's creating this position that the Democrats love crime. Like, they don't care about crime. Not so much that they don't love crime, but they don't care about crime. So all these people, MS-13 gangs that come in, these are going to be potential voters. So they want them to come in. And Ann Coulter with TMZ earlier today said the same thing. Like, this country is turning into Mexico. That's what people want. That's what liberals want. They want it to turn into Mexico.
Well, technically...
Yeah,
we were Mexico at one point, right?
I guess we're trying to transition it back into Mexico.
Well, I mean, isn't that what conservatives want? Going back to the good old days?
Make America great again.
Make America great again? Going back to the good old days? So technically, in order to do that, don't we got to...
But it's ridiculous because it's not extreme or it's not crazy to say Democrats don't want MS-13 gangs in the country. That it's not crazy. That's not unreasonable. Like, it's okay to say that I don't think the Democrats actually want criminals coming into the country. Like, it's okay to say that, okay? But then the second point is actually the end of that video where Trump is being entertainer Trump. You know, he's being the showman. He was trying to be funny. He was actually, it was a little funny, but actually he did speak a little bit of truth. Now, I understand what you were saying about how, like, they're not actually on a winning streak or anything like that. It's not like Republicans have been dominating for so long, but it was a hit, and I guess I'll take it as a substantial hit against the Democratic Party, because really that is what they ran on. They ran on how bad Trump was. Hillary Clinton didn't really offer anything. They didn't say vote for me because this. They didn't say, like, we're the better party, we have the best ideas, blah, blah. No. They said Trump is so bad, you can't allow him to get into office. You can't. It's too dangerous. Think about the Supreme Court. Think about this. And all of that stuff was relevant. But you provided nothing new, nothing original, nothing anybody could actually grab onto to be like, you know what, with Hillary Clinton, this is going to be a better country.
I think it was like one half of a strategy that could have been winning, because that as
if they provided the other half.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that as a standalone is whack.
Right. But that's what they offered.
That as a standalone was whack. But if for every point that they made about Trump in regard to, like, what to fear about him,
right,
if they followed that up with an actual policy platform, an actually policy agenda, if they followed that up with a specific agenda, it's like, hey, this is why you got to fear Trump, but this is why you have to vote for us. Here's what we're going to do. Offer some sort of
positive message, man.
Offers like a counter narrative.
Yeah.
I don't think in and of itself that's a bad position. It's just kind of running on just that is bad. Like, you can hit Trump how you want to hit him, but if you don't offer anything in exchange, I think that's where the mistake was made. Now, I think in particular, a particular Democrat did that. A particular Democrat campaign did that. I don't think you can put that on the other Democrat that ran against
in the
primary.
A Democrat did that.
Another Democrat, somebody who ran as a Democrat.
Yeah, but as you like to say, he was kneecapped. His campaign was kneecapped.
It was kneecapped. See, and see, that's the game. That's the game. I think it's a bit reductionist to talk about these things in like this binary way. And so you just say Democrats as if every single person that was a Democrat supported Hillary Clinton, which kind of like leaves a great portion of the kind of that voter base like unrecognized, as if they don't exist.
So there's one other video that we want to get to just surrounding this issue, and that's the ever awful Laura Ingraham, the conservative host on Fox News, the Laura Ingraham angle. She had some very disgusting words for what's going on with these kids that are being separated from their parents.
So since more illegal immigrants are rushing the border, more kids are being separated from their parents and temporarily housed in what are essentially summer camps, or as the San Diego Union Tribune described them today, as looking like basically boarding schools.
So, again, the awful Laura Ingraham. Situation is not so bad. It's like summer camps, boarding schools. Now, we've seen videos, okay? We've seen pictures. They have like some kind of like foil type of covering. These kids in cages sleeping on floors. This is summer camp. You know what happens at the end of summer camp?
They go home.
Yeah.
They go back home. So we kind of thank Laura Ingraham for making that comparison, because she might be loosely, unknowingly, but loosely advocating that these kids get to go home.
Yeah. This is ridiculous. See, again, this is this whole effort to shape the situation as like it's not really inhumane. You know, they're being fed. You know, they're being kept indoors.
I'm surprised she said like they get to go down water slides. Like she said, summer camp. What do kids do in summer camp? They play volleyball. They play tetherball. They play kickball. They go swimming.
So all of it is around. It surrounds like fun and activities, like fun activities, not being like restrained. You know, not being caged.
Nah, those are not. They're playing games. Those are cage games. They're playing cage games.
And Coulter again, when she was interviewed by TMC early today, she said these kids were saved from coyotes, so they should be thankful. They were saved.
Again, like I said, how are members of this administration, along with their media surrogates, responding to the issue when it's being brought up? They are creating the outrage. They are creating people's responses. People are responding directly to the things that they present as arguments to justify this agenda.
That's why it persists. That's why the controversy keeps going up a notch. It seems like every day, because what comes out of the administration's mouth or anybody that supports this policy is absolute nonsense, and it's inhumane.
And again, we didn't have a chance to see this with Obama. If it was an issue and it got brought up, I do wonder how the Obama administration, as well as him, would have dealt with it. But again, we didn't get to see that. So we can't really establish some sort of double standard here.
So in Congress now, I believe in the Senate, all Democrats, including the two independent senators, Angus King and Bernie Sanders, they all support a bill that will stop this separating kids from their families policy. Also, Mitch McConnell, the current Senate Majority Leader, a Republican, said that everybody in the Republican conference backs initiative like that as well. So there may be something that, comes out of Congress sooner rather than later that addresses this. I believe on the Republican side, they want something that's concise. They don't want it to be comprehensive, because then, of course, it's going to get lengthy. There's going to be opposition to it, so they really want it as like some, standalone initiative, some standalone bill. So I don't know. They may get, maybe that actually happens at some point sometime soon.
I think maybe Trump is backing Republicans into a corner.
He is. Like I said,
he's backing, because think about how extreme he is going. He's almost like,
it looks bad, man.
He's almost forcing Republicans to look moderate.
That's what I'm saying. Again, like the Republicans that side with Trump virtually on everything and on immigration can't support him on this, because it's just it's just too far. It's too extreme. So even though they support the wall, even though they support more border security and no pathway to citizenship, even though they support all of those conservative principles, they can't go as far as saying, hey, I support families being ripped apart from each other. Yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Nah, can't go that far. Again, nobody's saying that there shouldn't be a process. Let there be a process. But while the process is going forward, the family should be together. There's no reason to keep them apart. And the only reason is if it is serving as a deterrent, or like Mike said earlier, if Trump is trying to use this as some kind of kind of bait to get the Congress to say, hey, I'm going to give you your wall.
He actually already said that, though. Yeah. He actually mentioned the wall. Mm-hmm. He actually mentioned wall and negotiating with the Democrats on immigration. Yeah,
that's what he wants.
That's what he wants. He's just saying
he's using this as a trade piece, man.
But he's using it. He created it, though. That's the funny part.
But he didn't create it.
Well, my bad. He didn't create it. My bad.
He created it, but he didn't create it. And then he's using it, but it's only because the Democrats won't stop him from using it.
Like, again, if it's something that you don't support, why would you use it as a bargaining tool? If it's so outrageous, because didn't he say that? He said it's bad. It's so bad the way they're being treated, right? Mm-hmm. If you really believe that, why would you then use it as leverage? If you think something is so horrible and disgusting and so bad and it has nothing to do with you, why would you then try to use it as leverage?
So back in the mid 1900s, these businesses that wouldn't let black people inside, that wouldn't let black people eat, drink, just even occupy the same space as white people, they weren't bad people. They were just following the law. They weren't bad people at all. It was part of the law. They could deny black service. So, hey, they weren't bad people. They weren't being inhumane. They were just following the law, man.
I mean, now that you put it like that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to leave that there. We have some more to talk about with Trump as well, too. Especially this whole space idea. Anyway, we're going to get to that.
Space balls.
Yeah. But Facebook, we're going to get off and we're going to continue the conversation on YouTube. That's a YouTube on YouTube exclusively. So the link is in the description field. So all you got to do is click that. You'll be taken to the rest of the show. So we hope that you do join us, and we'll see you there in just a few seconds. All right.
I mean, like has any administration, just a side conversation, before, waiting for everybody to come up with all like 5 people that were on Facebook.
I'm saying.
Like, has any administration, right, come in and had to deal with things, whether it be things that were heavily publicized, that the last administration didn't have to, even though those same things that are being heavily publicized were not covered then. You see what I'm saying? Like with each administration, there are certain things that are more publicized than they were in the last administration, even if the same thing was going on.
Yeah,
it's always been like that.
Yeah.
Like think about 2 years ago, we covered the Dakota Access Pipeline. Pipeline protests aren't a new damn thing.
Yeah.
Pipeline protests aren't new, but there was a lot of attention given to them. Obama was in office. Did we not want to address it because Obama was in office? Well, it wasn't addressed the last administration or the administration before that. Black Lives Matter emerged during, the Obama administration, but criminal justice reform, police brutality has always been an issue, and it may have not been such a hot button topic before, but people still address it. They didn't say, well, it wasn't addressed last administration, so we won't address it. Or Flint.
The style of this administration, like I said, is to harp on the failures. His words, the administration words, the failures of the past administration, and say that's why I have to, conduct myself in this way. That's what they do. And I know, once a new administration gets in office, maybe at some points they do compare themselves, their administration, to past ones at some times. But we're just seeing this way too much with the Trump administration. It's like Obama is still here. No, it's like he's still causing
Obama
as much damage.
Obama and
Clinton, who was never in office. All right. So anyway, the Trump Space Force. All right, so our president, man, our fearless leader, Donald Trump, he was speaking to the National Space Council on Monday, and he had some interesting words. He said, when it comes to defending America, it is not enough to merely have an American presence in space. We must have American dominance in space. So that preceded some other remarks and a big announcement. What he said was big. And so we have a clip of some of his words. There is a special guest in the video. You'll be able to, you'll be able to see who the special guest is. This is a very good video.
Very importantly, I'm hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a Space Force as the 6th branch of the armed forces. It's a big statement. We are going to have the Air Force and we are going to have the Space Force, separate but equal.
So that was courtesy Tom Adelsbach, I believe, on Facebook. He's a creator. He's a graphic artist.
Yo, I thought that was
that was perfect.
He sold me. I could have thought that was Darth himself.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was Mr. Vader, man.
Darth was in the place of Mike Pence, the VP Mike Pence. But that was terrific, man. And it just because of course this is
3 words: distraction.
Yes, those aren't 3 words, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. But it was just kind of interesting that, one, he was talking about this, of course, while all this controversy is surrounding immigration and separating families, but he's saying that he wants a 6th branch of the military, all right? He wants a Space Force, right? So when you hear Space Force, and again, I have to include his previous words. He said that it's not merely enough to have an American presence in space. We must have American dominance in space. So when you say something like that, what strikes me is that, like, 1, this is new. 2, this is going to require a substantial amount of money. And then 3, I get images in my head like astronauts with guns patrolling space.
Imagine what outer space military budget would look like. You know how much NASA spends, or how much NASA had to spend.
Yeah, I know. And you know how much the military currently rakes in. So like I said, man, there was just a lot of mystery surrounding exactly what he was talking about. What, a 6th branch of the military? The newest branch of the military is the Air Force, and I mean, I think that was I believe that was created after World War II. So I think it's over 70 years since it's been created. So you want a 6th branch. Now, the funny thing is that we already have a Space Force. It's called the Air Force Space Command. That's already a division of the Air Force.
But that just surrounded mainly communications.
Yes,
it wasn't an actual space fleet.
The way he spoke, it sounded like you actually wanted space troopers with some type of space guns.
What? But see, that would make members of that branch astronauts.
Astronauts with guns.
Astronauts with guns, my bad.
Yes. And again, the way he talked about it, it seems like you think you have some kind of claim to space in space, which I'm not aware of. Do you have does the United States of America have some type of territory in space that I'm not aware of?
That's interesting. Because in order to establish some sort of space fleet or some sort of outer space military command, we would have to either rip up, get rid of, or get out of the International Outer Space Treaty or something like that. Because there is a treaty. And it's long. It has multiple sections. But the main section that people should focus on, and the main gist of the treaty, reads, it limits the use of the moon and other celestial bodies exclusively to peaceful purposes and expressly prohibits their use for establishing military bases, installation or fortification, testing weapons of any kind, or conducting military maneuvers. That's a current treaty we do have.
Now, that just about the moon?
No, it's just outer space. It's just an International Outer Space Treaty. It just mentioned, that was the part that mentioned the moon and other celestial bodies. We are not allowed to orbit the planet or any other celestial bodies with a military force.
Well, hey, that's just a treaty. We can get ourselves out of that, right? I mean, this is dictator Trump. You know what I'm saying? We can establish a firm grip on some territory in. How you gonna claim space?
And not only that, see, think about what he couched it in. Like, he's going to protect the United States from space. Like, they need to protect the United States from space. But if you want to dominate space, that means you want to dominate the globe. That doesn't seem like it's about protection, because he said the word dominance.
Yes. It's crazy, man. At a time when there is severe homelessness in the United States of America, at a time when we can't afford to ensure health care for every single woman, man, and child in this country, at a time when we can't guarantee that everybody in this country is out of poverty. Really, you want more? You want to explode the budget even more on this new 6th branch of the military? Because that would be it. More money would be funneled in to military purposes.
I think you're forgetting one key kind of element to this, that you're leaving off what my man said. He said it would be separate but equal. I don't know where that came from. I don't know the relevance of that, because when you say separate but equal, you're talking about like segregation. Like, why would there be an assumption that this particular branch of military would be like kind of subordinate or somehow lesser than the other ones?
Like, is anybody saying that the Air Force is separate but equal to the Army? Like, nobody's using that type of language. It sounds like this dude is a racist, and that kind of language just seeps out from time to time. Because again, that kind of language describes the practices back in the day when it was like, you know what? White people and black people, yeah, they're equal, but they're separate. You know, they got to be separate.
But see, you know what? I've actually seen a lot of people, especially on my social media, I've seen probably 10 or 12 different friends share some links or just share their opinion. They're taking this in a completely different direction.
Like where?
They think this kind of establishment or proposed establishment of some sort of space fleet or, planetary, military, space stations and all that stuff.
The mighty space rangers.
The mighty space rangers.
Mm-hmm.
Is the precursor to UFO and alien disclosure. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing, man. I'm dead serious, man. But for real though, these mugs won't even disclose what the hell happened to JFK. You really think these mugs are going to disclose some junk about some UFOs or aliens? And if they do disclose anything, it's going to be used for their benefit or to manipulate people. So I don't even know why people are going there.
Sex trafficking on the moon, man.
Remember your boy?
Or no, not on the moon.
Mars.
On Mars. Yeah.
Mars.
Sex trafficking on Mars.
That's
right.
RDS.
Yeah, RDS. Yeah. Oh man.
Yo, you know what this makes me think of, man? Like as soon as Trump said it, it made me think of that movie Starship Troopers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how many of them are there? Like 5 of them already?
I've only seen 3, but there could be more.
Yeah, I think there's
like one more. Was like they were all bad. One was like
what?
Bad. No. One
bad
was,
as in good.
Yeah, no. I liked one. It's still bad, but I like it. You know how there's some bad movies where he's like, that's bad, but I like it. I enjoy it.
It's supposed to be bad.
2 was 3 was bad. 3 was that was bad. That was like seriously bad.
Yo, man.
But anyway, all right, go ahead.
Maybe we should give Trump some credit, man. Maybe that's what he's looking forward to. Look, man, I'm just not trying to get like attacked or impaled by no big ass bugs. Maybe he's foreseeing the future.
First, we'd have to find a planet full of bugs.
He already knows they exist. That's what I'm saying.
How you gonna find out there's a planet full of bugs when we defunded the space program?
Exactly. And he knows something we don't. All that money that's gone missing from the Pentagon. We're in like conspiracy minute here. I'm just saying that's what's out there. I'm just saying I've seen it. People talking about alien disclosures and shit.
Yo, too much government, right? Too big, right? Government's too big, right? Well, but Trump wants even bigger government. But see, again, when we talk about this, we have to understand that they love big government. They just like big government the way they want to see it. They don't want government programs that'll actually like work for regular people. No, see, no, we can't have that. Big government like the military. Oh yeah, we can get our minds wrapped around that. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, big government in terms of like, corporate welfare. Oh yeah, no doubt. We can pay a lot of money towards that. Yeah. All right, let's finally be done with that, man. All right, so let's get to this gerrymandering topic, man. So we've talked about gerrymandering many times. Lots of people were anxiously awaiting the Supreme Court ruling on political gerrymandering, the cases of Wisconsin and Maryland. Voters in those states brought a case forward because they wanted something done with political gerrymandering. Political gerrymandering is a political party drawing congressional lines in a way that benefits their party. That's what political gerrymandering is. And in the cases of these two states, these voters felt like they were being disenfranchised because they were not picking their representatives. The parties were picking the people. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's like you structure the map to where your constituency is.
Yes.
And
people that will vote for your interests.
Yes, and there are going to only be a few of the other parties' constituents that are sprinkled within that area. But you pretty much...
And you want to group them together.
You want to group all your people together so you are sure...
Well, you want to group the other people, as many of the other people together as you can, so that they only have like maybe a few districts that, will represent them. And then the other district, all the other districts are left to you.
Or your party.
Yeah, your party. Yeah, that will vote for you for your interests. So anyway, these cases made its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court punted. They said pretty much, you have no standing here. We don't really want to do anything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna toss this back. We're gonna toss this back down to a lower court, and we're gonna let them decide. So in the case of Wisconsin, they said that the Democratic voters, because in Wisconsin it was Democratic voters, and in Maryland it was Republican voters that had a gripe. But in Wisconsin, they said that they had no standing to challenge the entirety of the congressional map. So they remanded the case back down to a lower court to see, for them to prove that they actually did have standing and to prove the damage.
Yeah, like within the summary judgment, there were instructions on how to bring a better case, like back to the Supreme Court if it were to reach that point. So the ruling sends it back to a lower court with a roadmap to successfully relitigate it. That's kind of what, like, I guess the ruling to me. That's how I interpreted it. It's not that they're punting it. It's just that they're trying to set it up to where there's a better case that they can present, that the states or the citizens of those states can present, so that they can rule on it. That's just me not looking at it with like doom and gloom glasses.
This is from The Hill. All right, it said the voters allege Republican legislators unfairly and strategically put them at a disadvantage. But in delivering the opinion of the court, Chief Justice John Roberts said the plaintiffs' alleged harm, which is the dilution of their vote power, is an injury that is specific to their voting district. So basically, what he's saying is that they could only challenge their one district. They can't challenge the whole entirety of the Wisconsin map, which I find laughable, because if one district is drawn in a very nefarious way, don't you think it impacts the other districts as well?
Also, they already knew what they were dealing with before they were ruling on it. This is where I come back out of my devil's advocate position. They already knew what the situation was, so why would they even entertain the case if that was their reasoning?
Right.
Meaning that they already knew before the case was presented before the court that it was going to be about a specific district. Then why did they even like hear it in the first place?
I don't understand, because it seems like they already had their mind made up, because under their words, there's no way that these Democratic voters or even these Republican voters in Maryland could actually prove their case. They would have to have the entirety of the state to say that, hey, we're going to come together in this class action suit against the state of Wisconsin. Or, yeah, pretty much.
You know what else kind of showed me that they didn't even have the intent on ruling on it? Did you see what Justice Roberts said?
What? About
like what this ruling might indicate? Well, according to him, he was worried that getting involved in a partisan gerrymandering would worsen the court's standing in the public's eye because the average American would think the justices were favoring one party over the other. So it just seems like he was more concerned, or his approach to this whole case was more concerned about how he was going to be perceived. So
that doesn't make any sense to me, though.
It seems a bit cowardly.
It does, because they had two different cases. Again, one case in Wisconsin was Democratic voters who felt they were being disenfranchised, and in Maryland it was Republican voters that said they were being disenfranchised because in Wisconsin it was a Republican government, and then in Maryland it was a Democratic government. So how would you feel that the voters would think that you have a bias anyway? Like, I don't care if for the last maybe like decade or two, this has been a Republican technique. Now, sure, Democratic governments have done it, no doubt, but this is a tactic of the Republican Party. Okay? We all have to be honest about that. So I don't care if Democrats do it as well. I want that rooted out too. I want a fair system. I don't want political gerrymandering. So if the Democrats are using their powers to disenfranchise Republican voters, that's not something that we should be about. We should be about fairness and balance, right? That's what we should be about equality. If you have the best ideas, if you have the best policies, let the voters weigh in on it. That's it. That's all that it should be. I have no problem if the process is fair, but what we have seen across this country is that the process is not fair, and that these parties are drawing these lines so that they can stay in power. The Supreme Court knows that, right? You would have to know that as a Supreme Court. You wouldn't have taken the case, like you said, you wouldn't have taken the case if it didn't have some merit to it. So why did you punt?
Why did you take it, and why did you punt it? So I think we kind of have to keep an eye on this.
It's not over.
It's not over.
Yeah.
So like I said, the court gave instructions to kind of, I guess, make their case stronger. So,
but in a dissenting opinion, though, it was Chief Thomas, or not Chief Thomas, but Justice Thomas, that said that they had, like, the people that brought the case forward, they had like a year and a half to get all of this sorted out, so they shouldn't get another bite at the apple.
Wait a second. They shouldn't get another bite?
They should not.
They should not?
They should not.
So they should not even be able...
He
even if...
He disagreed that it should go back to the lower court.
But he disagreed that it shouldn't go back to the lower court for a different reason than the other justices. He wanted it to go... Well, he didn't want it to go back to the lower court because he didn't think it was an issue?
Yes. Well, no. He didn't have anything to say about whether it was an issue or not. He said that they didn't prove that they had standing. So since you didn't do that, your time is up.
So basically, there's a timetable and a time limit, or like some sort of like, I don't know, freedom and justice stopwatch, where if you don't like get it before it hits zero, you can't challenge it anymore.
You're wasting the court's time. Sorry, be gone.
Fuck that dude, dog. I never liked him either, man.
That's what he said, man. That's what he said.
Wow, that's blatant, man.
Yeah, it is, man. I'm not going to talk about every single one of them, man, but politics is not supposed to, I guess, rear its head on the Supreme Court bench. It's not supposed to, but it looks like it does.
And it's not that they were playing politics so much. It was more vague. It was like they didn't want to appear as if they were playing politics, but in doing so,
that's just as dangerous.
But actually, in doing so, they're actually playing politics.
Exactly.
It's almost, you know what?
I don't want to play politics,
you know
so I'm gonna play politics.
It's like not blowing the whistle as a referee and saying I'm going to stay out of it, but not blowing the whistle creates chaos.
Exactly, and you didn't stay out of it.
You didn't stay out of it. It's still a passive act. It's still an act, even if it's passive.
And you allowed you allowed it to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you see something wrong, then you should do something about it. Political gerrymander. No, forget political gerrymander. Any gerrymandering is wrong, okay? Now, it's unconstitutional to gerrymander based on race. That's unconstitutional. So why shouldn't it be unconstitutional to gerrymander based on political affiliation?
Because then, okay, devil's advocate for them, they will say, well, you can change your party affiliation so it's not the same as a racial demographic. Well, because you're not born that way.
That's true, but that's why you need an impartial process, an independent process, something that's not connected to these parties, because so that they can draw the lines. And again, these lines that are drawn aren't permanent lines. They can always they're changed every 10 years. Because of the census. So they're changed every 10 years, okay? So give me some good lines. We'll see how it does in 10 years. We'll see if the demographics have changed. We'll see if political leanings have changed, whatever, because people move into the state, people leave the state, whatever. We'll address it when it comes due. It's not a reason not to do anything, or it's not a reason to allow these parties to just get over on us. But Supreme Court has spoken, at least for now. All right, let's get to another judge in Kansas. I don't think I have anything from that, right? No. Okay. So on Monday, a federal judge ruled that Kansas cannot require documentary proof that voters are citizens of the United States. So the judge found that the Kansas law violates the constitutional right to vote. The judge also required Kansas's Secretary of State, Chris Kobach, who was arguing on behalf of Kansas and on behalf of this law that they passed. The judge required Kobach to complete an additional 6 hours of legal education before he can renew his law license.
That was the funny part of it. The judge sent him away with some summer school homework. Yep. He has to provide training materials and guidance to the election officials as well.
This was funny, but this was the appropriate decision, because this is something that is an extension of Donald Trump. And Chris Kobach is somebody that is a supporter of President Trump.
You mean talking about like a bunch of undocumented people voting?
Yes. Remember that old lie, that old trope.
So that's his agenda.
Yes. After the election, Donald Trump said, hey, there were millions of undocumented immigrants that were voting illegally in 2016.
And he tried to bring that case to a court, and the courts were like, you haven't proven your case.
Because there was no proof. There was no evidence whatsoever.
It's all in his head.
Yeah. But Kobach is using that and saying that, hey, we have to establish some law in Kansas that mandates when you go to register, you have to provide your birth certificate, your, I think, what's another? Passport, maybe, something like that.
And the thing is, like when you go and like update your license, whether you're going to get your license for the first time or you're updating your license like for renewal, like you can register to vote. I don't recall when I was at the DMV them requiring me to have a passport or a birth certificate.
No. But in Kansas, if this law would have stuck, you would have had to. Well, not to get a license, but if you were trying to get register to vote, you would have to provided your birth certificate, passport, whatever. And the whole thing, it sounds ridiculous to me because, again, we have talked about voter fraud. Voter fraud as, I guess compared to electoral fraud, like election fraud. Like there are actual cases of election fraud, like things that you can actually see. It could be the Diebold machines. It could be ballots lost. It could be all types of things. But voter fraud, there are very few cases of voter fraud that have actually been proven. So Why would you know what? And let me go right back to Kobach, okay? So the Secretary of State, okay, so Kansas has about 1.8 million people in the state that are registered to vote. So Kobach told the court that he has been able to identify a total of 127 non-citizens who at least tried to register to vote. They at least tried to. He said 43 of them were successful in registering, and 11 of them voted since 2000. Okay? So let's just take his word. Let's just take the Secretary of State's word for it.
That it was 11 since
11
2000.
of them vote.
And
right.
this case kind of just got handled at the beginning of this year.
Yeah. So 11 people in 18 years, which that's nothing. That's a big fat nothing. But again, let's say it's right, okay? So still, if they were non-citizens, they shouldn't be voting, right? So that is something that, you know, maybe something should be done about that, right? So if he was able to determine that 11 people voted and they weren't supposed to, then you could probably stop it from happening. There shouldn't be another process, should there? Because you were able to there has to be some kind of process, some kind of system that was able to identify these people and say, hey, you know what? They weren't supposed to vote.
So what you're saying that there was already a sifting mechanism that was there.
Had to be.
But the sifting mechanism didn't actually discover anything significant.
11 less than one a year.
Maybe that's what it is. He needs a bigger sifter. Maybe that's what it is. He says, "See, since I found since I found these, there's probably a chance there's more."
Oh,
that's probably what he's
Well, sorry, you're not gonna get a chance to do that. I think he did say that he's appealing. He's appealing because everything that he's trying to do is constitutional, and this was the wrong decision by this federal judge.
Everything he's trying to do is constitutional.
Oh yeah, it was constitutional. Yeah.
Sure. He was already sanctioned for failing to notify people who were eligible to vote. So we trust in this guy. If I guess if he gets his way, are we really trusting him to properly notify people who indeed are eligible, or is he going to be the judge and jury?
And why would we trust a guy that's using a lie told by Donald Trump to initiate this law in Kansas?
Yeah. Matter of fact, this is the same dude that drove around the city of Shawnee. And I think that's like a suburb outside of Kansas State. He drove around in a star-spangled Jeep with a replica machine gun mounted on it. And of course he did it on the edges of a parade so we can have a big audience. So that's the kind of dude we're dealing with here.
That's what we're dealing with.
That's what we're dealing with.
Again, man, I'm glad this federal judge shot him down. But you know what? Actually, so you know what? An extension on that, or I guess a case that is related to that, this would be an update. Crystal Mason. We talked about her some weeks ago. Crystal Mason is a woman in Texas. And recently, I believe this was back in March, late March, she was sentenced to 5 years in prison because she voted in the 2016 presidential election when she shouldn't have. So she was out on probation, all right, because she was sentenced to, I think, 60 months in prison for some unrelated thing. I believe it was she was a tax preparer and she was kind of fudging some kind of numbers. So she was sentenced to prison for, I believe, 60 months, but she was out on parole 2016. Her mother told her, hey, you know, why don't you go vote? She had no idea that she couldn't vote because she had not satisfied all the terms and conditions of her sentence. And even then, she probably still wouldn't have been able to vote because you disenfranchise people when they get put in prison. You don't allow them to vote. They have to petition to get their voting rights back. And in most cases, they don't get them back. But anyway, that's another issue. But anyway, so she was out on parole, out on probation. And she voted. She wasn't supposed to. She went to the her precinct. Her name was not on the voter rolls because, of course, it was taken off because she was in prison. And the one of the volunteers that were there helped her, gave her a provisional ballot to vote with. She voted on the provisional ballot. So when you vote on a provisional ballot, what happens? They have to investigate they have to determine if that provisional ballot should count. So they went digging into her past. Hey, they found out that this woman should not have voted.
So therefore, the provisional ballot essentially worked.
Yes, it
did
worked.
What it's supposed to do.
Because it didn't count. Because you have to determine if it should count. And they determined that it shouldn't count, so it did not count in the 2016 presidential election. But just for the simple fact that she actually tried to vote, a judge sentenced her to 5 years in prison just for trying to vote. And she tried to plead her case. She tried to, tell the judge that this was an accident. She did not know that she had lost her right to vote. She wasn't reading any of the wording on the form that she was filling out, the provisional ballot, where it does state, I believe at the top in small letters, but still it does state that, if you were a felon or if you're on probation or whatever have you, you can't vote. She didn't read that because somebody was helping her. And she tried to explain that to the judge, but the judge did not care. And again, sentenced her to, another 5 years in prison. So just recently she had appealed that, but she appealed to the same judge that administered the 5-year sentence. And, the judge declined her appeal for a new trial. So now she's trying to appeal to a higher court. Her attorney is Allison Grinter. She said prison is a lot closer for her today. So they're going to try to appeal, but of course, I guess options are running out.
I mean, why would the judge reverse his own decision?
It wouldn't even make sense. He's the one that handed the sentence down. There's no if he felt it was necessary to hand the sentence down, then why would he say, you know what, I was wrong?
If anything, she is somebody Trump should pardon. You know what I'm saying? That seems a bit harsh.
It does.
I guess when you look
cruel and unusual, isn't it?
When you look at the conditions and what she did and how she was open about what she did.
Actually, she didn't do anything.
Because
it didn't even count.
It didn't even count. But what I'm saying is just open about the process behind how it all went down. It wasn't some secretive thing. She was like, yeah, I did this and I did that. I didn't know. And so, I do think there should have been some discretion in that situation. So we have a system, right? We have a system of government, right? We have the provisional ballot system to where if you're not on the voter roll, then you take this provisional ballot and you vote. At a later date, we're going to determine if this provisional ballot should count or not. So the system worked. It didn't count. Now, did she do the wrong thing? Clearly, she did the wrong thing. You're telling me that she should get a 5-year prison sentence because she didn't know? Even if she did know. That just seems like, really excessive. So
it seems very excessive.
I hope that, maybe... I don't know. I hope that they lessen her sentence or they do some time served thing, like a year or two. Actually, I don't think she should be in jail, period.
No, it should be a fine at the most.
It should be a fine or, maybe probation. I don't know.
The only one that's going to be the only one that's going to have any kind of injury based on what she did is her.
And her daughter.
Yeah, that's the only one. The system, her vote didn't count. So it didn't put anybody in. It didn't help put anybody in office at all. It did not count. So why the excessive? Why should she spend 1 second in jail for this? It's. I hope this. If it does keep. I don't know what court she's going to appeal to. Of course, like I said, it's going to be a higher court. But keep going. If you get denied at that court, take it all the way up to the Supreme Court, man. Right now she is out on bond, and she's allowed to be out on bond while she's appealing her case. So at least she's not behind bars while this whole, process is going forward. So I guess that's the good news,
That's the silver lining around a real dingy cloud.
Yeah. But that cloud can produce some rain if at the end of the day she has to go to prison for 5 years. It's unbelievable. So a few updates to some situations involving some police brutality. In Mesa, Arizona, we talked about the case of Robert Johnson, who was brutalized by 4, 5, 6 cops.
6 cops.
Yeah.
On that balcony.
Yes.
He was punched in the face by a couple of officers.
Punched in the face repeatedly, 5, 6, 7 times.
I think he got knocked out as well.
Got knocked out temporarily. Then he was picked up. His face was smashed into the elevator. And, like I said, he didn't commit any crime or anything like that. But anyway, the city prosecutor filed a motion to dismiss the charges of disorderly conduct and hindering police with prejudice. So it does mean that the case can be refiled in court. We don't know if it will be refiled, though. But the judge did grant that motion on Thursday.
I wonder if that footage wasn't there, I don't think they would have been quick to drop those charges.
Because it would just been his word, man.
It would have just been his word.
Yeah.
I hope he actually, files a civil suit.
I hope he does too. As of right now, I don't believe he has filed a suit against them. But 5 officers have been put on leave, and the Scottsdale Police Department is investigating if the Mesa police officers used excessive force with Johnson. So there's another police force that's investigating Mesa, which
that still to me, even though it's another department, I guess on the outside it looks like they have no allegiance, but that's still in house.
Yeah,
that's still in house.
It's still the same profession too.
Still the same,
like you said, it's still in house.
It's still in house. It's not really like some sort of outside entity that is separate from the police.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's the police investigating the police.
Which has all the wrong optics.
They probably still see each other as brothers in arms.
No doubt.
They probably still see each other as, compadres. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like the military. Just because you stationed on one base and somebody stationed on another base, it's not like, you know what I'm saying, y'all still feel a part of the same brotherhood.
Yeah. So the case may be forwarded to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, and they are the ones that are going to have to decide if charges should be filed against any of these officers. Not holding my breath. But again, when we cover the story and we play that video, if nobody else, the officers that were punching him, because there were 2 of them that we saw, one more dramatic than the other. But especially that one main individual that punched Robert Johnson at least 6, 7 times. The final blow being just the most egregious of them, with like the forearm, the elbow. If that's not assault, then I don't know what is.
Again, like, I guess the context to what a human's body can do to another human's body somehow changes, or is different if you have a uniform on.
Right.
Like, it's clear.
In another case, Milwaukee Bucks player Sterling Brown, he is suing the city of Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Police Department after officers brutalized him earlier this year. I believe that was late January where this happened, at a Walgreens in Milwaukee, where he was illegally parked in at least 2 spots, which is not the right thing to do, of course. It was early in the morning. It was like 2:00 in the morning. Could something, and there was somebody in the passenger seat, could something be said about, hey, I mean, it's not something that you should do, no matter what time it is.
But you can kind of understand. The consequence of that is just a damn ticket.
Yeah.
Not like it doesn't require the entire police department to come and harass a person.
No. I mean, I'm not excusing his actions, but I can understand how somebody would do it, feeling like, hey, nobody's coming here at 2:00 in the morning. There's way more parking spots. I'm not gonna prevent anybody from parking here.
And even I guess what Brown said, he was just in and out.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the rationale behind it. And again, it's a parking violation.
Yeah.
And I don't think actually Brown felt any kind of way about accepting that
the
part
penalty.
of it.
Like, yeah, the actual penalty.
He said, like, when he said, we're going to see what we're going to do, give you a ticket or whatever. And Brown was like, okay, do what you got to do. But what's the what?
Exactly.
Like, okay, that's fine. He was like willing to accept the punishment. But for some reason,
you got to call your boys.
The officer already had it in his mind that he was going to make it more than what it was. He was going to somehow issue a judgment upon Brown further than what the violation called for.
All they called for was a ticket, a citation, maybe an appearance in court, or maybe not even, just pay the fine. It could have been as simple as 5 minutes, a 5-minute conversation, not even a conversation. Do what you got to do, write the ticket up, I'll take it, I won't do it again.
I know it's 2 o'clock, man, but hey, man, you know, there might be some handicapped people that are out this late too, man. Just watch yourself.
Yeah, you know what? I shouldn't have done it. All right, go ahead, give me the ticket. Whatever. If he really wanted to go that far, fine. But it escalated into this whole thing where he ended up being tased and arrested. So anyway, yeah, he is suing the police department and the city of Milwaukee. One of those police officers that responded to the situation, his name is Eric Andrade. And I don't know exactly which officer this was in the video. We saw the video. I don't know exactly which one it was. If he was one of the ones that was actually reprimanded, like slap on the wrist, you know, like there was a few of them that were like, hey, some more training. And
yeah, we don't know like what his capacity was.
Yeah, but anyway, he had posted a joke on Facebook. And this was after Game 1 of the NBA Finals, where, if you saw it, J.R. Smith, who is a guard for the Cleveland Cavaliers, it seemed like he had like a brain fart. You know, like he had this moment at the end of the game where the game was tied. He caught a rebound. There were still seconds on the clock, but he kind of just dribbled the ball away. Time ran out. It went to overtime. They ended up losing. So it just seemed like he wasn't aware of exactly what was going on, right? So anyway, he caught a lot of flack for that. He caught some flack from this guy, Eric Andrade. He said on Facebook, I hope J.R. Smith double parks in Walgreens handicap parking spots when he's in Milwaukee.
So this police officer who was just involved in a highly publicized incident involving an NBA player who was ultimately harassed by Milwaukee Police Department.
And brutalized.
My bad. Yes, exactly.
Can't forget that.
Yeah. And brutalized. Mm-hmm. I guess the body cams illustrated that.
Yep.
I think since his occupation as police officer, he would take a situation like that a little bit more seriously and not joke about it. And to me, joking about it is a slap in the face to Brown, in my opinion. And it also illustrates to me that this officer kind of didn't take this instance of being called out as a police officer justifiably. He didn't take that seriously. So to me, he doesn't take his job seriously. If he doesn't take his job seriously, he doesn't need to have that job. It doesn't look like he's interested in being a civil servant or protecting and serving, because to joke about a situation that was a kind of a clear display of police brutality as a police officer, to me that tells me all I need to know about his mindset. Like, he doesn't even take the job seriously. He doesn't take, the job of protecting and serving.
It seems like he understands his position and his authority, and that based on the punishment that was administered to some of the people that were there on the scene, there wasn't anything really noteworthy. It was some more training. Some people got like 3 days, unpaid leave. I think it was as high as 15 days. I think there were maybe 3 cops that got 15. You know what? We don't know. Actually, we don't know how many got 3 days, or I think it was 10 days, 15 days. We don't even know which cops got what. They were slaps on the wrist.
And he said that we're not going to know until they complete it, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You had to file information request. To find out the officers' names and all of that.
But he was trying to be transparent.
He was trying to be transparent, the police chief, Morales. But anyway, this particular cop seems to me that he feels that his position is, I guess, supreme. He understands that he's going to be protected. He's going to be defended, not just by his coworkers, not just by his bosses, not just by the prosecutors and the politicians, but by regular people as well, because regular people have been on social media excusing the actions of these officers. So he just understands that what he did, even if he knows what he did was wrong, he knows there's not going to be any significant penalty for it.
No repercussions.
So he can joke about it.
No repercussions.
Yeah.
Unless like someone wearing a uniform does something extremely egregious and gets caught. Usually nothing is done unless it's egregious. There are cases where police officers are held accountable, and there are cases that are out there.
Yeah.
But those are very egregious cases where it's like there's no room for denial. You know what I'm saying?
It's like you kind of have to, like what we would call egregious. These are like in those cases, officers still don't get penalized.
Yeah.
So it's like another level of egregiousness. You know, it's just like even if we're able to dissect it and say that it's clear what happened on this video, for some reason officers are still able to excuse their way out of it and point to I was in fear for my life, or that's what I was taught in police training, and they just get away with it. There is absolutely no repercussion.
Think about how backwards that is, though. Like that kind of I guess common explanation is highly accepted. I fear for my life.
Yeah.
These officers have tactical gear on. Usually they have some sort of body vest. They have a gun, they have a taser, they may have a billy club, they may have pepper spray. They also have a super trooper backup team.
Yep.
They are in fear for their life, right? Think about how that is something that's highly accepted, and it's highly accepted that they act in a very aggressive way if they use that reason. But for some reason, someone who is unarmed going up against them, remember all that tactical gear I mentioned? If I say, or any civilian who is unarmed says they're in fear for their life and they struggle a little bit, or they even don't want to comply, like I don't trust you, or let me request your supervisor, that seems to be unacceptable, which I don't understand. How is somebody who is unarmed, who doesn't have all that tactical gear, and a super trooper backup team not in fear for their life, but someone who has all of that, those other things that I mentioned is? Like that's more understandable to some people.
Well, their lives are worth more, I guess. I would have to assume, even though they have so much protection to stop the ending of their lives.
Exactly. They have so much more protection to stop the ending of their lives, more so than I or any other civilian does.
Like that video, I mean, we're talking about Sterling Brown. That video, we don't even know how many cops were on the scene.
We only saw like 6 or 7. Actually, we counted 9.
Yeah.
We counted 9 loosely.
Just in the shot. And
that was just like, we wasn't an official count.
Yeah.
We just saw 9 people in that shot, and we don't think all the cops that were there were actually in that shot.
The officers that took him down, there were at least like 5 officers that actually took him down. You're telling me for a guy that didn't make any threatening moves, had no weapons on him or anything, it took that many officers to get him to the ground, and it also took the deployment of a taser to get control of him. No, I don't buy that. Let's get to another update. Tabitha Duncan, Tabby as her friends call her, I believe. Tabby Duncan is the young white female who garnered some negative attention because of a video that I believe was taken on Snapchat, but then it was later put on Facebook. And in the video, she can be heard saying something like,
you have to see now. I knew you was gonna look at me to say that junk, man. I was like, man, I ain't saying that shit.
She's like,
you gonna go nigger hunting?
Yeah, get niggers.
Get nigger. I was like, what the hell? Like, I felt like
get them.
I just felt like Yeah, I just felt like time just like I felt like I was in a time warp.
Quantum leap, right?
Yo, for real. Felt like I was jumping through that portal, man. I was like, did y'all hear that? And then like the person that was behind the camera was saying, we're gonna go nigger hunting.
Yeah.
I was like,
we're gonna get them niggas.
Get them. I was like, people like, I mean, I know we live in the South. I know we live in a place where there's some dirt roads.
Right.
But damn.
Yeah, that looked straight out of like 1947,
like,
man.
What the heck, man, is going on?
But anyway, when we talked about this, her establishment that she was working for, the bar, the restaurant, they had already fired her because the type of things that she was spewing. They couldn't be associated with that. And she was actually featured in some of their like advertisement, their promotional material. I think she was featured on like different Facebook ads or different Facebook posts as well. So they couldn't have that no more. They took those posts down and they cut her. But anyway, we believed why she was out celebrating with whoever she was with was because she had just recently enlisted into the Air Force Reserves. Well, looks like she's no longer going to be with the Air Force Reserves. Lieutenant Colonel Chad Gibson said he didn't identify her, but it's perceived that this is who he was talking about. He said the recruit is in the process of being released from her enlistment in the Air Force. He said the video released days after her enlistment is intolerable and does not reflect the values of the Air Force.
Really?
So he wouldn't out her publicly, but seems to be that's exactly who he was talking about. So,
see, that's why
sad day for Duncan.
This is a sad day. I mean, I know there are probably tons of other people who have that same mindset, kind of carry the same attitude that she does. I'm 1,000% sure that they're out there.
Oh yeah.
But those people didn't take it upon themselves to, I guess, display that attitude on the camera. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure she didn't have anything to do with uploading it.
Right. No.
But still, though, nonetheless, she was fine with doing it on camera and didn't consider the consequences of that. So guess what? She got caught. And so if you get caught, she almost left it. She left the military no choice but to make that decision. Because how are they looking in this case?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's people of all walks of life who I'm sure have plenty of biases, whether it be racial, political, any kind of social bias, in any kind of way. But guess what? You have a particular you have a particular job to do now, and also you wear a particular uniform, and you're no longer just a civilian representing yourself now. You're representing an organization. So if you come out the mouth incorrectly and you are part of that organization, then guess what?
Yep. I can harken back to a few years ago, Donald Sterling, who owned the Los Angeles Clippers, and some very racially charged phone conversations that he was having with his mistress came out. She's the one that put him out. But after that, he couldn't stay. He was gone quick, fast, and in a hurry. The NBA was trying to get him out. The players that were on his team was like, no, we don't want nothing to do with this dude. I believe some of them wanted off the team if he was going to continue owning the team. So, like I said, he got out of there quick, fast, and in a hurry because of this negative image now. You just can't do it. This is the digital age. Stuff like this is going to come out, and you can't be that forthcoming with your bigotry and your racism. You just can't, because there are going to be consequences, especially when you represent an organization like the Clippers or the Air Force. It's just that's what it is.
Yeah, that's the reality, and it really, to be honest about it, it's not really kind of a reality that's based on some sort of, I guess, new form of integrity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, it's not based on integrity.
And it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. You know what's fucking people over? Mm-hmm. Capitalism.
Money.
Capitalism.
It's going to hurt their opportunities to make more money. So that's why they got to cut bait with you.
So, you know what? Capitalism is even bad for your racism. Man. So why don't you just join us in this revolution?
I'm saying, right?
Well, don't join us. You can be over there.
Exactly. On the other side of the anti-capitalism.
Yeah, be anti. Yeah, see, even racism capitalism is messing with your racism.
Yeah, like we can agree on that, but you still got to stay over there. Do your part over there. You know what I'm saying? But anyway,
that's a good example of how people who are, I guess, a part of different political constituencies can't unite simply because they agree on an issue.
Exactly.
Because if we don't want the same world, then we can't agree. If we don't want the same future, we can't agree.
That was the whole thing with Robert David Steele.
With the whole conservatives coming together with progressives, which essentially is actually kind of counterproductive. Those are two opposites. Like, they don't want the same world that we do. They don't want to live in the same world. They don't want the same future.
But he was wanting to tackle election integrity. He was trying to reform the election system, which is great. All of us want fair elections, but again, you got to do your work over there, because see, we don't want the same things. Like, if we actually were able to successfully get to a point where we can trust our whole electoral process, that'd be great. But then at that point, our differences are going to show up, and what is it going to look like us being aligned with you? No, sorry. No, can't do that. One other thing too that we can talk about briefly, the trade war with China seems to be escalating. So it was on Friday that President Trump announced that the U.S. was going to impose 25% tariffs on $50 billion in Chinese products. So in response to that, China said that there would be a reciprocal action for $50 billion in American tariffs. $50 billion tariffs on $50 billion of American goods. So then on Monday, Trump said that he is seeking to identify an additional $200 billion in tariffs on some other products coming from China. And he tasked his trade advisor to find those products, find $200 billion of Chinese products to slap a 10% tax on. So
maybe, I wonder what products Trump is looking to apply that tariff to. Is it going to be his own products that come from China, or his daughter's products, the line that comes from China? I doubt it. What's the ultimate goal of these tariffs? What's the ultimate goal?
Well, okay, so he said in a statement, China apparently has no intention of changing its unfair practices related to the acquisition of American intellectual property and technology. So he's saying that, and we talked about this weeks earlier when this subject first was broached, that he believes that China is engaging in an unfair practice of forcing American businesses to give up some of their intellectual property to do business in China.
Oh, so basically, again, think about who Trump is, and he's the kind of person that doesn't want to give up anything to get everything, and so he kind of speaks to that mentality, and so he's expecting somehow corporations to enter the country of China. With China having making zero or any kind of guidelines as to how that takes place. Yes, there is going to be something that they have to give up, because why are they going there in the first place? They're going there because of lack of regulation. They're going there for cheap labor. So what do you think a country is going to do? It's hey, you want to come here and we can, turn a blind eye? You can, see, we have our regulations are not as strict. So if you want to come here, you got to give up something. It's not this unfair, unbalanced thing. They're getting something out of it.
But even if Trump had a point, which I don't know that he does, I am not an economist. I am not an expert in trade and international trade or anything. But let's say he does have a point. Is this the best way to go after it? I mean, is this the best way to initiate a trade war? To say that, okay, $50 billion in goods, 25% tax. China responds with the same thing. Okay, you know what? You're not taking us seriously. $200 billion, 10% tax. What do you think China's going to do? Is China struggling? Don't you think they would do the same thing yet again? Like this is bad planning. This is a bad strategy. Again, it's like we have somebody heading this nation that doesn't understand how to negotiate, that doesn't actually know how to make deals, that doesn't actually know how to implement like a better overall system for the United States of America, even though he told us during the election or during the campaign, the presidential campaigning, that he was going to get the best individuals involved. We had dummies. He was going to cut the best deals. That doesn't seem to be working.
Well, kind of his way of approaching things is to point.
Yes.
He kind of directs people.
Poke
prod directs people to make things happen. He doesn't make things happen himself. I don't think he actually knows how to make things happen. He just directs other people to make things happen for him. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? He's got that boardroom mentality without really having. He has like his savvy comes with branding himself through visual advertisement.
Yes.
Branding himself through rhetorical advertisement. Trump brand is this. Trump is this. We're great. We're good.
He's good at that.
He's good at that.
As a businessman, he was good at branding, and people would use his name and put him on buildings. That's what he would do. That's how he was getting money. As a president of a nation, doesn't seem like he has the hang of this thing. It doesn't seem like it. Who was it that said, he did write the Art of the Deal. Yeah, he did write that.
That was Dude Poop. I think Dude Poop also brought up the fact that the 5 living first ladies all happened to be talking about the separation of families. I do think that's interesting. Mm-hmm. My thing is, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm not directed by them. I'm not being directed by them, or following their lead, or following the lead of Democrats that I don't like, or following the lead of Democrats that I know are just using this situation as a way to just hit Trump, or using a situation to make themselves look like the ultimate humanitarians. Who cares? I don't care what the first 5 ladies think. I don't really care what Democrats think.
All this is about is morality.
All is about is human rights. I don't really care how the Democrats co-opt certain issues or certain movements for their own benefits. That's always been done, and that will always be done. It doesn't make me see this issue as more important because the first 5 ladies have said something.
I guess it makes it more interesting.
It makes it more like interesting and noteworthy for the media, but for the most part, I truly don't care. Like, I'm not. I don't know if it was Dude Poop that said that. I don't know who said it. No, he didn't. He was just mentioning it. He was mentioning. He didn't establish some sort of opinion about it.
Yeah, I don't think that we take those cues as like, oh my gosh, look at them and attribute some type of like higher meaning to it. But it just goes along with, like earlier when we were talking about it, saying that Republicans are on the same side of this because this is such a controversial topic and they can't go that extreme. They can't go as far as Trump is going on this initiative because of the optics. It's just way too inflammatory. They could have the same exact position overall on immigration, but when it comes to separating families, that has there's no purpose behind that. So go ahead, I'm sure these conservatives will tell you, go ahead, get them out of the country, deport them, build a wall, but keep them together. Like, what are you doing? That's stupid. That's why you have these Republicans that are, like I said, they're anti-Trump on this initiative right now.
Like I said, I guess all politics is designed for posturing. And why not call out the big guns? Why not call out the big guns? 5 first ladies, that's the big guns. And again, but whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? The reason why this kind of issue has progressed the way it is because of the extremity of the situation and what the Trump administration has made it. These five first ladies wouldn't have to say jack if it wasn't for that. And like I said, we don't care. I agree, Dude Poop. There's creative problems. That's why we don't need to shape our opinions or what we focus on based on how they react to things. We just need to react to things in a very organic and raw way, and based on what we see and based on what they are, and not how they're shaped and who decides to co-opt them or take them on in regard to their own political agenda.
See, and we know the Democrats. I'm not going to say that the Democrats are not legitimately on the right side of this, because there are issues that I think they are legitimately on without, I guess, having to pander, you know, like it being fake. I think most of them are legitimately on the right side of this. I think so.
And it doesn't matter what their motive is.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. You see, with like an issue like this, it doesn't take a lot to be on the right side. You know what I'm saying? Like, because there's no good reason to separate the families. Like, you can say that, yeah, the parents broke the law and they need to be prosecuted. Okay. You can initiate some court proceedings, like has always been done. You can do that. But why are you splitting the family up? It's not like they were violent towards their children. It wasn't like they put their children in danger. They were driving drunk or something like that. It's none of these things. If you're going to keep them, if you're going to house them somewhere, then you can house them somewhere together. And that's what Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, and liberals alike, that's what all of them are saying at the same time. There's no reason behind doing some kind of policy like this.
And Ron Churchman, the point, we're actually, if you actually watch the show, we actually addressed that, and we actually kind of went over like our take on why it doesn't matter when it started. The reason why it doesn't matter when X started, you can actually apply this to anything. It doesn't matter when X started because not one administration would be responsible for it. Everything is like each administration builds upon the last. So it's not really constructive at the end of the day to say, hey, this is when this started. Because wherever it started, it got worse the second time around. Mm-hmm. The third time around, it was worse than the first and second. The fourth time around is worse than the first, second, third, and then so on. So you can't hold the first person responsible for the next five, but then at the same time, you can't hold the fifth person responsible for the last four solely. So that's why it's not really constructive to say, well, when did it start? It's as if like nobody can make a decision to change or stop it is what you're trying to suggest.
Let's say it did start with Obama.
Or let's say it did start with Clinton. Like that's when like some of these policies, they say they started, but they really didn't even start with Clinton.
But even if it did, if it was inhumane under Clinton or Obama, it would be inhumane under Trump too. But Trump would have the decision to say that, you know what, I'm not going to execute these inhumane policies.
Yeah, how far back does the statute of limitation? What's the statute of limitations on this? And not like legally, but just
he says he has no choice.
But just like within the eyes of the public, what's the statute of limitations? Like
how far can you go back?
No, for anything. Like it doesn't matter the thing. Mm-hmm. Like when we talk about how Obama escalated the drone program, did we let him off the hook because it started before him? We don't say, hey, you guys need to look up when it started. It don't fucking matter when it started, especially if Obama made it worse. We're going to talk about it as it exists in its current time, in real time.
Actually, when we talked about the drone program, we really never even talked about Bush, but Bush used it too. It was just that Obama ramped things up. But we only talked about Obama. We didn't talk about Bush because Bush wasn't president.
Like, you know, to me, it's like it's just not constructive. That's kind of, if you go back and listen to our commentary, we kind of went over that, and we don't really have time to give a real comprehensive. We just kind of touch on things, but like to me, it just doesn't make sense to kind of deal with it in that way. And I think it kind of gets people away from addressing things, I guess, to put a mirror up to the United States. You're just making it about one administration or one individual or a small group of individuals and not seeing it as a characteristic of the country we live in, like I stated before. So it's like we need to just go ahead and just acknowledge that mirror. This is who we are.
It's a bad
regardless
policy,
of who is in office. So until we get there, then it's kind of like it's not constructive to talk about and things that way. That's all we were talking about.
Like, if it's a bad policy, it's a bad policy. Doesn't matter who started it. If Obama started it, cool, it was a bad policy under Obama, but nobody knew about it. Now that people know about it, why would Trump continue it if it's a bad policy and it's inhumane? Why would he continue it? Why would he act like he has no agency. He is like, oh, you know what? My hands are tied. Can't do anything here.
You know what?
That's it's just it's just fully functional. I can't stop it whatsoever.
You know what? He's just kind of using buffoonery to enact the same policies that we always have. Like, I guess Obama, he may have used his charisma to do it. You know what I'm saying? And Bush may have used his little Curious George dumb, like, kind of, he was dumb. Oh, I'm just a dumb Texan. He kind of used he presented this kind of naive characteristic where nobody thought he was that evil, because he's kind of like happy-go-lucky, dumb. He had his, the Bush eye. He had the Bush eyelids. Or you could say Clinton. He knew how to play the saxophone. He was charismatic too. That was a distraction. That's what he used to kind of continue out this agenda. We just have a different kind of guy carrying out that agenda. He's just doing it in a very buffoonish way.
But he's doing it.
And it doesn't matter how he's doing it. Like,
all right. So we're going to open this up to take some calls. And let me... You know what? Hold on a second. Let me set this up so that... Right. I think that we should be ready to go. All right, so the number to call in if you would like to be a part of the program is 669-900-6833. And you feel free to call in if you have any opinion on anything that we have discussed today or tonight or any other night, or maybe something that we didn't get around to speaking about. Please call in and let your voice be heard. We would like to hear your take on some of these issues.
Just don't say the C word around Will. He might go off just a little bit on you if you say the C word.
We'll see what happens tonight, huh? We'll see. We'll see. But see, I got full control over my emotions now.
No, dude, poop. Ain't no Crips. If you watched the last show, this one over here. This mug just kind of like, he popped the cap. Like, his like, he's like, oh no. That was like, I don't know, remember what, Pee-wee's Playhouse? The word of the secret word?
Yeah.
Somebody said the secret word, or a caller said the secret word. And his like internal Pee-wee Playhouse just went crazy. It's like, the secret word.
I couldn't tolerate it, man. Couldn't tolerate it, man. Could not tolerate it. But anyway, all right, we got somebody in the caller environment, so we're gonna get to that. So this is area code 443.
I think I know who this is.
You were on the line with LTMB. How you doing tonight?
Hey, what up, fellas? How y'all doing tonight?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Doing good. I called in to talk about this separating children at the border thing.
Of course you did.
Tonight, that shit's got me heated. Because America's history with young children, especially children who are disadvantaged, like slave children and immigrant children, it's always about sexual depravity. From Thomas Jefferson on down. It's always about that. And Americans have such a huge problem when they talk about sex and all this stuff. They're so repressed, you know exactly what's happening to these children. Exactly. Separating the girls from the boys. I just read an article, like 5 minutes ago. They're sending the youngest girls to tender age centers. Do you know what they used to describe as a tender age back in the day? Yeah, you guys know what they used to describe as tender age back in the day.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going on, man. They're selling these kids. Their parents have no legal recourse in this country. They can't even ask for their children back. They can't even ask for them back. It's disgusting. It's just disgusting, man.
It is disgusting.
I'm glad, and I also read another article too. Kirsten Nielsen got shouted out of a Mexican restaurant. The balls on this bitch.
Really?
Shouted out of a Mexican restaurant. eating at, like, her food was probably prepared by undocumented workers.
I know, right?
You know what I mean?
Isn't that some irony right there?
That's just
She better
bullshit.
watch out, man.
I honestly, what's his name? Corey Lewandowski was on CNN when asked about the separation policy. He was told about a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome that was separated from her mother.
Yeah, I saw that.
His response, womp womp.
That's what he actually said?
That's what he actually said all over Reddit. Womp womp. I was like, really? You know that son of a bitch has children too.
You know what people I'm not hearing from, Court? The all lives matter people.
Pro-family people and all that.
Specifically the all lives matter people. Because when you just talk about pro-life, see, we're just talking about life at the beginning. We're just talking about life hasn't come out the womb yet. But now when you start talking about all lives matter people, you're talking about that's comprehensively talking about humans in general.
Well, this is an opportunity then.
This is an opportunity for them
to rebrand though. They can rebrand as all American lives.
They would have to.
Yeah,
they would have to. But see, we already knew that
all citizen lives.
All citizen lives.
Yeah, something like that.
All
it's like their single
lives.
issues, man. It's like their single issues. Their single issue has changed since the 1960s, man. Right? Like first, the single issue was we can't have an end to segregation. That was the first single issue. That was the real issue. And then after the Civil Rights Act actually passed, then they had to disguise their single issue, forced busing, right, or pro-life, or anything at all to couch it in some kind of moral, like we are so morally outraged. But when they see children locked up, separated from their parents, as young as babies. Breastfeeding babies. Who the fuck does that?
But they're able to vilify the parents. Even at those images, they're able to ignore those images and say, well, the parents shouldn't have come over here, so forget the children.
That's kind of like, I guess, how they project or distribute like this kind of their vileness onto a target instead of like looking at how they're so decrepit as human beings. Instead of looking at ourselves, we have to find someone to blame, and we'll just blame the parents.
That's why it's not about lives. Like, it's never about that. It's all about, I guess it's all about who to vilify, really. That's really, if they can pick somebody that they perceive as wrong and vilify that group of people, then that's what they're going to do, no matter what the issue is.
I don't even think it's perceived as wrong, man. They vilify people who can't defend themselves. It goes along with their gaslighting tactics. They attack people who can do nothing to defend themselves, and then think they're so brave. Yeah, they praise their ICE officials and their ICE officers, like they're so brave down there at the border, dumping out water for people who are desperately trying to escape your fucking foreign policy. I swear, man. Sometimes, dude, I wish these people could spend a week in some of these countries that they helped create. They were so. It's like I was watching this documentary. I watched this documentary on the Spanish-American War, and just the arrogance and the hegemony. These people go into another country like, oh, we're going to help the Cubans. They completely fucked the Cubans over. Fucked them over until Fidel Castro got in office. And then finally, when he got in office, don't get me wrong, Castro had some issues, right? But at least he wasn't put people up there like Batista. Batista was a crooked dictator. His only mission was to make sure American interests were taken care of. And when the people finally got enough of that shit and started shooting motherfuckers in the street, all of a sudden, oh, well, we'll see them. They're animals. They just elected this dictator. They're just animals. It's because those people couldn't defend themselves. And that's how they do. They do that shit. They do that shit in El Salvador. They do that shit in Guatemala, Nicaragua, and all over the fucking Central America, South America, all over the place. The La Violencia started in the 1930s, and I'm telling you, that shit has not stopped. has not stopped. It's 2018. It's almost a century now, and shit has not stopped. But it's these people's fault because they have to come over here and sneak into America. They're evil. Fuck these people, man. I honestly, I hope this party burns in November. I swear to God, I hope this party burns. To the fucking ground. I mean, anybody with any sense of decency at all, like any ounce of human spirit at all.
Our military exploits have ran rampant all across this world, and I mean, we've talked about that going back years about how we're in essence creating all of these migrants, all these refugees, but then we want to turn our backs on them and say, oh, they're dangerous people. Like, there's no vetting process. Of course there should be a vetting process, but to say that the whole problem that you caused, you're going to turn your back on, that's not humane. That's not humane at all. Like, why don't you use the Bible to say that we should do something here? Like, we should do something that is actually humane, not to say that the Bible actually compels us to, I guess, act in the interest of the law. It's illegal to come across the border, so we have to prosecute these individuals. It's hard to make. Of course, you can't make sense of it. It's hard to.
Oh, I can make sense of it. They've always used the Bible.
Well, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you can talk about
Jesus,
what they try to make sense of it.
This is what Jesus said. He said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And then he went on to say, anyone who would hurt a child should put a millstone around their neck and jump into the sea. Basically, what Jesus said was Jeff Sessions will be better off at the bottom of the ocean. That's what Jesus said. Now, they want to bring up Romans and talk about Jesus saying, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and give unto God what is God's. Me personally, like, if you want my personal take on it, this is what I think about it. Religion for the common man is true. Religion for the wise man is false. And religion for the powerful man is a tool. And that's just the way I feel about it. I mean, they can bring the Bible in all they want. And I can come back every time with another verse that would dispute it. And that's the problem with the Bible. They continually use it to justify their shit. And then as soon as these old racists and shit, make America great again, as soon as these old racists and shit hear anything at all has to do with the Bible, they automatically believe that they're right and moral. I fucking hate it. It just makes me want to strangle people.
If you're powerful, you can use any tool you have.
Yeah, no, the Bible kind of gives people the justification to do things that are wrong. It kind of creates
slavery, discrimination.
It kind of like warms people up to be okay with doing wrong things. It makes people feel better about doing wrong things. So,
I would even go so far as to say it's a Bronze Age propaganda tool. Is what religion it really is. It's a Bronze Age propaganda tool. It's like back in the day when tribes, just started to figure out agriculture. They had to figure out a way to make a bunch of disparate people, different people, work and live together. And some of them people had to be slaves. You know what I mean? That's why they come up with that shit, because they wanted something that they could use for propaganda to make people believe that there was some kind of reward after this life. And it's a fucking joke. It's a travesty. Life is completely ruined. I mean, just ruined, because we have all these motherfuckers down here running around saying a bunch of bullshit, and other people that believe, my life sucks now, but if I keep up, with a good fight, and I'll get my heavenly reward. What about your earthly reward, stupid? What about your earthly reward?
To me, that seems like a cop out, and it's very empty. It almost seems like it encourages people kind of not to value this experience. It almost seems like it encourages a lot of people to not really, I guess, value this reality we live in right now on this planet. Because, like, hey, I don't care. I'm going to give a damn what happens here. There's really no consequence to what I do here as long as I just pledge my allegiance to this God or this Jesus. I'm be in heaven, so it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? It gets people not to even kind of cherish not just their life, but the people in it or in this world.
Right.
So I think it kind of makes
right. Well, I mean,
it actually creates an unsympathetic world without compassion.
The premise of religious belief, especially when I was in church, you know, one of the things that they would really pound into the children was, you believe in God and you love God more than you love your family. And that's reinforced over and over and over and over. It's a dangerous thought, man. It's a dangerous thought. Yeah. God is not there. Your parents are. Your family is. You know what I mean? Like when the shit is like, your fellow man is right down the street. Your fellow man is right across the way. Needs your help desperately. Stop worrying about what God thinks. And don't sit there and act like it's all so important that you forget everything in this life so that you can have some great reward in a life you can't even prove exists. That's ridiculous. And I hope they get called out for it. And I hope they get run out of a lot more Mexican restaurants, to be honest with you. To be honest with you, I hope they do.
It's
using the Bible to justify that shit. They need to be told about themselves. And the only thing that I've seen good come out of the evangelical church is the fact that they are now getting on Jeff Sessions about this policy. But I don't even really. I mean, I guess it's all right. You know what I mean? That it took all this, but seriously, this should have been nipped in the bud back when Trump came down them steps talking about rapists and murderers. That's when they should have been the first ones up there talking about, you know, our God is God of compassion.
But they were all behind.
They don't want it to be a God of. They don't want it to be a God of compassion when it's a brown person or a black person or a person who doesn't speak English or who's not American. Then God's vengeful. Then he's vengeful. Then fuck these people. It's got me heated. It's got me heated.
We understand, man. Got us heated too, man. Got a lot of people around the world heated, I feel, man. But we appreciate you voicing that on the show, man. We appreciate you calling in.
All right, y'all have a good one.
All right, man.
All right, man.
Take care
Thanks,
of yourself.
Court.
Peace.
Like but Court blew a head gasket.
Yeah, man.
On this show tonight, boy.
And do some repairs or something.
I know, man. I ain't never seen him like that.
It's
I never heard him like that.
It's frustrating, man. All right, we got 360 on the line. Welcome to LTMB
What's happening?
Live.
How you doing, my little brothers?
What's going on?
It's me, V.
Yeah,
Livy Cubed out in Washington State, honey. I'm trying to find a posse to head down to Tacoma and raise some hell, because that's where our detention center is. Good news. In Portland, they ain't playing. They're doing an Occupy ICE, and they ain't playing. They got their tents, they got their shit. They're calling for folks, bring us food, bring us, stuff, and bring furniture, because we are staying. We are not leaving. And that's the way it's got to be done. Everything we need to change requires a 24/7 protest. So everybody just needs to just stop feeding each other and figuring out a way to keep rotating their credit cards to pay each other's rent, while we occupy the shit out of everything 24/7, because this is crazy. This has gone way beyond. I mean, whatever subject you want to bring up, it's atrocious. It's beyond atrocious. You can't say nothing good about what's happening with any department in the U.S. government, right? Right. You can't say nothing good about any law getting passed. You can't say the courts are going to save you. Courts ain't going to save you, because, somehow when Republicans are a minority, they can still stop, when they get the majority and we got a president, we can't get a Supreme Court justice. But Trump can get any damn thing he wants. We got so many Democrats helping Trump get everything he wants that everything is atrocious. There is no hope in government now. None. Zero. You can't trust the police. You can't trust your schools. You can't trust your transit. You don't know the bridge you're on ain't going to fall out from under you. You have no idea that levee is going to break in the next flood, and God forbid that you have a natural disaster. You're going to be Puerto Rican just like the rest of us, baby. You don't need to be off on an island. You're going to be screwed. Don't even go down in a fire, in a flood. Don't let there be an earthquake. You're done. There is nothing this government is doing for anybody who ain't, a millionaire or billionaire. So
You're
at
right.
this point, if listen, man, you know why it's hard for me? Because typical Puerto Rican TPR, as we say, I cry like a mofo when things hurt me. I cry. Oh, child, I got no shame. I just sit down and bawl and go, oh my God, have me, Jesus. And oh, wait a minute. Speaking of the religious freaks, listen, they are good religious people. I mean, I don't know why they got to be religious to, you know, justify their goodness or trumpet it out, because you could just be good. You don't have to be
I think
religious.
you just said it.
But
I think you just said it. You asking the question, but I think you just said it. You just said to justify their goodness, when I don't think that them being good is really a consequence of their religion. They just, like you said, it's them, and you're just using. They feel they have to justify it through that religion. But you just said it. You got the answer.
But then on the other hand, you got Reverend Baba out there doing the right thing. With some white dyke preacher lady. And I'm just being real. She's a white dyke, I'm sure of it. I mean, I'm sure she's white, but I'm pretty sure she's dyke. I don't know if she's out. But whatever. There's some people out there doing the right thing, but they got to say it's, because of God and the Bible and whatever. No, it's because you got common sense. If you got any damn common sense, unless you a billionaire, a king, a queen, a court jester, whatever the hell you must be to have some royal favor, we need each other. So you're going to be nice to each other because you're going to need each other one day. It's just sense. You don't need Jesus, God, Gaia, or anybody else to tell you this. You just need some damn sense. If somebody down the street ain't got no food, you go make sure they got food. You see someone. It used to be you could see someone on the street and bring them home and help them out. Now how are you going to do it? There's so many. How you going to? You can't. It was just sense. It was just common sense. We lived together, and because we didn't have these, we weren't so comfortable. Your house really could blow down in a damn storm, so you needed your neighbors to come help you put that shit back up again. Now you call a company, or it's all some corporation in China with shareholders. I have no idea. Forget about it. You don't even know who built what. You have no idea. None of us are doing anything for each other. We wouldn't know how anymore. I can't fix my damn sink. I mean, simple, basic stuff. Never mind build a house, with the electric and the bullshit and everything else. Never mind a smart house, just a simple ass house. Nothing. We don't know how to do anything. We are scared because we are helpless as hell. When all our shit comes down around us.
That's what capitalism breeds. They put us into either they or we put ourselves into groups, and like if we help each other, it's only we helping people in that little group that we're a part of. We're not helping outside of that group. We see ourselves as outsiders, or we see them as outsiders. So we can't do for other people if they're not aligned with us in some significant way. And I think that's what the problem is with capitalism. It sets up a competition.
Well, it sets up a competition, but we're always we're generally competitive. I mean, we did invent sports. Animals didn't invent team sports. We did that. So we like competition, but you can have some sense, and you can see that. But what capitalism does do is, put everything in its own little silo, because monopolies, they want monopolies, and they want dependency. Whereas you got a socialist structure, and it's all about cooperatives. So everybody's going to learn what everybody else knows if they want to. Ain't nobody trying to hide it and hold it back and say, oh, not until you kiss my ass this many ways and get this many degrees. No, you want to learn physics right now? I'll show you some physics. You want to know how to put together an electrical circuit in your house? I'll show you. And that's what a cooperative does. Capitalism doesn't want that, because how are they going to profit? How are they going to profit if we're taking care of each other? That is the one. If we could just stop arguing about the economic, socialism is Marx and capitalism is, the Koch brothers. No, carajo, pendejo. Mira, coño, one makes you dependent and one makes you interdependent. That's it. Do you want to be dependent or you want to be interdependent? Yeah, you ain't got a whole lot of faith in people at this point in life, because we have been so nasty to each other for so long, looking for our own little piece and screw you, that, yeah, people got a good reason to go, even in spite of all the luxuries we have compared to back in the day, we are still being so damn greedy, selfish, and evil. Well, yeah, that makes you distrustful. But you know what? That's still a minority of people that are hustling and conning and carrying on, and we don't even give each other a chance. We do not give each other a chance. We do not discuss cooperatives because we do not trust each other. We are socialized to say, you poor, you a ghetto child, you must be low. There's a reason for you to be down there, even though we're saying we're defending them. But we don't give them any goddamn, credit for having any damn common sense and being able to do this. We still keep looking for saviors from above. Our talented 10%, all right? This ain't too boy, we'd way past that. We have got to realize what we need is cooperatives. I don't give a shit. I don't give a rat's ass what anybody else wants to call it. You just want to cooperate. The opposite of cooperation is, chaos. Sheer freaking chaos. It's like anarchy. I used to think that that's what it was, but these anarchists, which is why I hate all the terminology bullshit. When you sit down and you read what they're talking about co-ops. They're just talking about no hierarchy. And I'm like, all these people, there's hierarchy and there's no hierarchy. There's dependency and there's interdependency. You want to be in a hierarchy and be dependent because you ain't going to be at the top. Or you want to be, in cooperatives where there's interdependency. Where if one person don't help you out, someone else will. And if you can't help out Joe, you might be able to help out Anna. But you could help somebody some way. Because there's a place for you to be helpful. Whatever you know, whatever you're good at, you would be used and people would be grateful. And then you get what you need because people go, yeah, look, Fulanita, she did what needed to be done over here. She takes care of business. So, yeah, let's help her out with this. She helped this one out. We'll help her out. And it just goes round and round like that. When you're in a small community with privileged hippie white people, you see this happening. This is where I live. Privileged hippie white people. So they have a buy nothing group on the Facebook. They trust each other to go to each other's houses, delivering food, diapers, furniture, baby needs, whatever. Someone says, I just got it. They love to show how generous they are because it's a trusting small community. If someone does something crappy, everyone's going to know about it.
See,
in cities, you got to organize block by block. In a city where it's so dense, you got to organize block by block. And until we do that, no government is going to save us. I don't give a damn who we vote for, how long we organize. And plus, all that shit takes a whole lot of time, and we ain't got none. We have no time. Whatever the world out there wants is telling us to do, fuck it all. Pay them no goddamn mind and start working on your block. Work on your block. Somebody needs babysitting? Be there. Someone need food? Be there. You got a garden? Share it. You need something? Say it. Let people know what you need. Don't sit there waiting. Oh God, I got to go to the, to this agency, the Social Security or the welfare or somebody or to the Medicaid, and I got to ask. No, ask your friends. God damn it. Start asking because of why we feeling so helpless is because no one's asking us to do things that we can do.
Well, hold on, V.
That
hold
we
on.
can do.
So, that's okay. So you're talking about small scale levels, right? So I totally agree with you. Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you. The problem is, how do we take those small scale levels and we multiply that, or not even multiply that? We take all these small groups and we turn them into one group. Like, we're so far away from actually like having a system like that to where we're just relying on humanity. We're like just seeing the good in just another person that isn't like us. Like, I don't know how in the world we would actually get there. I just don't know.
It takes time, but it's something that you get a lot more for when you invest time into it than when you put all that time and energy into a campaign. Believe me, I put that kind of time and energy into campaigns. And when you do it in your neighborhood, those connections don't die. When someone goes to the hospital, someone runs over to make sure the pets or the kids are okay, whatever. But when you go in a campaign, once once your person wins and then sells out, everyone's despondent. Or once your person loses, everyone's despondent. 99% of the volunteers don't get a job in it, are never asked to do anything useful again. You have to build things that last, and nothing grows without a solid foundation. When people don't have to worry about childcare and food and basics and utility bills and bullshit, then they have time to go to that meeting and work on, their city council and their state legislature and their federal blah blah. But when we're not there for each other, we ain't got time for nothing.
Right.
We ain't got time for nothing because we ain't there for each other. Nobody's there for us. And I don't know why these people keep trying to organize just along campaigns. Where back in the day, the Panthers, what we did? Mira, nene, I never in my life would have known what it was like to leave New York City and go to a beach like, upstate and see what it was like out there if it hadn't been for the programs that the Panthers and the Young Lords put out again. And that stuff was meant to like expand, for kids to expand their horizon. First of all, for your kids to be safe while you're working in the summer. That was the first goal. The second goal was, now that we got your kids, what do we got to do? We got to feed them. We got to teach them something that's beyond ABCs and stuff, and broaden their horizons. Let them see something outside of the hood. Let them imagine they could be somewhere else, or that where they live could be like that. And it did change us. And now where is that, babe? Where is that? I don't know. Boys, you got boys and everything is institutionalized. Boys and girls clubs, blah blah blah. These were community centers. These weren't things reliant on charities and big sports names and people who donate millions. These were things that people put their little dollars and cents into. Got a couple of high school going to college students hired so they could TCB, and everybody got something out of it. And it changed people. It just, it changed me. I had never seen anything outside of the Bronx and Alphabet City in Manhattan and Harlem, obviously. But I had never seen anything else until that program. And it built bridges, and people, from getting involved in it, some ran for office, others just became friends and took care of each other's kids. And that saves a kid's life when there's adults paying attention.
See, the only thing I'll say to that, V, the only thing I'll say to that is that, like, again, those are like there's a lot of these small scale models like that where you do have communities that do for each other, and it'll extend, it'll grow, it'll extend, but still they're small communities. And the problem is, like, to actually do something in this country or maybe, really just talking about this country is small scale, but to get everybody together in this country actually acting on just the best interest of everybody, I mean, that would just take such a massive effort, because the powers that be are keeping us separated, because they do have all the influence. They do have the money. They can. Oh yeah. They have the reach. Oh, yeah. They have the reach to keep things separate. So it's just, I mean, like, no, I understand that's what we need to do. I'm just, I don't know how we do it.
That's right. That's why but that's it. You got to walk in there with your eyes wide open. Because I always tell people, you could have 100 people doing the right thing, and it only takes is one asshole to screw it all up. One greedy asshole can start all kinds, sow seeds of discontent and jealousy and distrust and shit. And so you got to just know that. And then we're not going to have nirvana. We're not going to have utopia, because we're human. That's it. We're human. And we're going to have also mentally ill people, and people with addictions, and people with issues over, abuses and stuff, and PTSD, and just plain chemical imbalances. And folks are going to lose their patience. And then we got to forgive each other and just go on. And the people that, and just like tribes used to do, tribes have always said, banishment, baby. If you're going to come in here and you're going to undermine the whole shit, hasta la vista, you on your own. Go find some other tribe to put up with your shit. You know, sooner or later, the whole region's gonna know who you are, and that's the way it is. But that's because people are communicating, and we are segregated. So that is a huge issue that I have seen. You know, of course, our groups in the hood dealing with environmental racism, and then the white folk dealing with their environmental issues, and then the native folks dealing with their, and everybody off in their silos and shit. And then, especially as people of color, because we really have the least time and money and transportation ability, are we saying, y'all come to us? But let me tell you something, they ain't never coming because they scared. We have to go to them for whatever their damn little movement is, whether it's for money, the environment, the kids, whatever, choice. And we go to them and say, now we here standing with you. I'm telling you very, very clearly, your next appointment is to come into my neighborhood and stand with us. That is your next appointment, or you will never see us again. You like us being in your movement? You put us in the front and make sure all the photo ops are there. If you want us there, you come here. But now we came. Now you know somebody. Now you don't need to be scared. We will make sure you are all right. Because I know you're scared, because that's what they told you to be. But you coming in here next. But we have to step out too. How does it grow? We step out of our comfort zone. I have never been quite comfortable around white folk. Ain't no damn reason I should be. And never done. I mean, I grew up, catching the grief. I'm a Puerto Rican. It was a black and Puerto Rican neighborhood. No white people did anything but, shit on us for the most part. A few exceptions. But, mostly the kids our age. But the adults were unbelievable. And a lot of the kids were too. So, we knew. But, if at some point you got to break out of your zone, everybody got to break out. White folk got to get the hell out of their lily white ass neighborhoods and stop acting like that shit is an accident. Because anywhere you live that is a white neighborhood, and I'm listening, and you're listening to me now, I know y'all are listening. If your neighborhood is white, it is not an accident.
Oh, we know
there
that.
is no way in hell. But there's white
like
folks
that,
listening. I'm telling the white folks out here who are listening,
yeah.
If your neighborhood is white, it is not an accident. And that's one of the first things you better work on, because they will stay white until your housing is not affordable, until it is low income housing. Because I'm going to tell you something about the definition of affordable housing, and this has been going on since Obama. If the price of housing is the same as the average apartment in that neighborhood, it is called affordable housing. So if they're charging $3,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment in San Francisco, that is called affordable housing. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is not low-income housing. So these MFers need to quit saying, including, ay Dios mío, those pinche Democrats, they have got to stop saying affordable housing. Because by definition, in HUD, if it is the same as the rent all around you, that is affordable. That's what's called affordable housing. That's by definition before HUD fell into the hands of Dr. Carson, the neurosurgeon. Okay, this is not a Trump thing, and so this is what I'm saying. We got, and this is what we can educate each other. What you brothers are doing, you're educating shitloads of people. Does everybody in your neighborhood know what you know? Have you shared that with the folks in your hood? Do y'all sit down and talk and say, okay, this is all the stuff we know together. Now how we gonna, go? Because it is way easier, and I'm not judging you, because I'm the same way. It's so much easier to talk on social media or on the YouTube or on the whatever, on the podcast, on the phone calls, and face to face with your neighbors who you gotta see every day. It's way hard. And that's
I don't think
just
around here our ideas will be well received.
What do you think? And
it really depends on the age group. The age group that I talk to, probably
I'm talking about general.
Oh no, not in general, but probably 18 through 26 range.
But see, the problem with that,
18 through 26 range of people that I talk to tend to, kind of relate to the platform that we discuss.
But the problem with that, though, is that you're not the only one that has their ear. You know what I'm saying?
True.
You got the same people that have been bred here have the ear as well, and it's you know.
Yeah, they're telling them something completely different, and but it takes dialogue, though, you know, and it takes like, you know, we don't. One of the things that made it so possible, how you think it was. Okay, you're talking about America. How you think it was that so many Latin American countries that you know were jammed up so bad by, you know, Reagan and Bush and all these people, and then, you know, not that anybody Democrats did anything great for us either. How did they go from those dictatorships and those horrific places to lefty governments at least for a while? How the hell did that happen? How could that happen? They're so poor. They're so there's so little education and literacy. How it got, you know, have you ever read Paulo Freire? What the hell was that? It was he was a Brazilian dude, and okay, so the thing was to have groups that meet just to talk about shit and try to solve these local things, but then really have these serious discussions. And then because you do have to reinforce those ideas, and you do have to show each other that you're supporting each other through those ideas. If all you do is talk, but the church lady comes over and she's the one bringing food and childcare, who are they going to listen to? The one who's bringing food and childcare and stuff. And that's what I'm saying. What they do, those churches and those faith communities do, is really pay attention to really taking care of a need. And then those people go, oh wow, that this whatever, or you know, organization really was there for me. Oh, and they want me to come over on Saturday or on Sunday or whatever, or Friday, whatever the day of worship is, and off you go. And that's how it is. We can't just talk. We've got to have some real bona fide helping going on with the talking. But we also have to answer all the questions. And when they come in and go, well, you know, my cousin or my aunt or my mama, or my daddy said this, and that you're crazy and stupid and radical and you ain't got a clue. Then you just sit there and say, okay, what specifically do they think is so stupid? And you just keep having the conversation. This stuff doesn't change overnight. And we're so tired and so frustrated because we've just been watching for too long. I think most of us have been just watching for a long time. And that shit always gets to you. You know, if you just sit there and watch disaster programming hour after hour, you better make sure the bullets are not in the same house with the gun. You know what I'm saying? Because that shit'll make you crazy.
Disaster porn. That disaster porn.
Exactly, and you get depressed, right? And you feel helpless, right? And stuff. We choose what to reinforce in each other and in ourselves. And so that's where it has to. I don't believe in this, like, you know, oh, happiness is, you know, affirmations. You are wonderful, and so now life is great. But I do believe that we have to really remind ourselves every day, every single day, that you need validation, and you need to validate others, because there it begins. There it begins. Because as long as we just like to see each other and be voyeurs, we're not gonna. It's too easy. It's too easy to dismiss.
All right, V, you know, but you in just a few seconds.
You make a difference, and I think when people hear you and they think about these.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
All right, V got cut off.
Yeah, the session ended, so the call just got dropped. So
yeah,
since we did not get to say it on the call, thank you, V, for your call.
Yeah, appreciate you calling in, V.
You are a fan.
Imparting some wisdom, some knowledge.
You are definitely a fan favorite.
No doubt. V said a lot, man.
Yes. Somebody in the comment section, I can't see where, asked Court if he could run for office.
It takes a certain type of individual, man. Not only do you have to know your stuff, man, you have to know how to communicate that. You have to be a celebrity type too.
And that's,
you have to be a celebrity type.
You know whose fault
man.
that is? You know whose fault that is?
Who?
It's our fault because we love celebrity. Yeah. We don't have our ears open or our eyes open unless a celebrity says something. We live in a celebrity culture. Mm-hmm. Not just that we want to, I guess, I don't know, idolize them, but we want to be them. We want to be like them.
I mean, I remember back in 2000 when Al Gore was running for president, and I remember he was described as like bland,
boring, monotone.
You know? Yeah, and that wouldn't have. I don't think that would have bothered somebody like me if his like ideology, or if his like, you know, what he believed in, what he stood for, was something more along with, you know, something that I would support. But he was just, you know, he was pretty much just your typical Democrat. So if somebody else like that comes along, I don't care I don't care how they fix their hair. I don't care what the tone of their voice is.
I don't care whether they drink beer or play basketball.
Yeah, I just don't care, man. Like, if you're interested in actually doing something good for the people of this country and of this world,
I don't care if they can recite Cardi B lyrics.
Nah, man. I don't care if you're not the greatest orator. I don't care. I don't care. Like, communicate. Like, I need you to communicate it to me well. You know what I'm saying? I need you to communicate it. I need you to be clear in your vision, but you don't have to be the greatest speaker. Nah, I don't. But like, again, that's what you said. Like, that's something like we mandate. We mandate our political candidates to be celebrities. Like, they have to be somewhat flashy, and they have to have some kind of.
They gotta do political backflips.
Yeah.
And when I'm saying backflips, I'm not talking about like in position wise. I mean like they're literally performing. They're dancing. They're like, look, you know, it's like they gotta do things like play the saxophone. You know what I'm saying? They gotta do things like that. They gotta, you know, took
them to the White House, man.
Or, yeah, I mean, it's like, or, you know, put on, I guess, Air Force uniform and land on an aircraft carrier. Those are those are tricks. Those political tricks.
Yeah.
You know, performing.
I smoked, but I didn't inhale. Which was like, whoa, that was really something back in the mid 90s or the early 90s. Like, whoa, you actually admitted to.
If you didn't inhale, you didn't smoke.
Yeah, you didn't do a damn thing.
Thing.
You tell me you wasted cannabis? All you did was puff
it to the mouth.
You sucked it into your mouth, and then you.
But see, if you're sucking it in, that means you're inhaling it.
Not really. I mean, you're sucking it in, but you're just holding it here.
Oh, you're saying that he's.
Like, I remember the first time that I smoked a cigarette, because I always hated cigarettes. And you remember one of my good friends, Bobby.
Oh,
right?
yeah, Bobby Wheeler.
He smoked. Yeah, he smoked. You know, he was a smoker, smoked cigarettes back when we were like 16 or so. And I always hated it, but I was like, you know what, man? Let me just try it. All right. I remember I took one, and I was puffing it. I was blowing, inhaling it. I thought I was inhaling it, but it was just filling my mouth, and then I was just blowing it out. He was like, nah, man, you're not doing anything. You actually got to like inhale it. I was like, oh, okay. I actually did that. Coughed till like I was damn near crying. Threw the junk at him. Was like, all right, I'm done with that. So.
That's kind of how my first experience went. And I was like, nah.
Yeah.
Nah, that's not my style.
That's
not my style.
Nah. But yeah. You have to, like I said, you have to be some kind of celebrity type, man. And that's the kind of situation we set up for ourselves, man. Another thing she's talking about, when we're talking about competition, like that is who we are as a species. We love competition. I love competition, man. I'm one of the most competitive people that I know. I hate to lose. I don't care what it is. But one thing that I could damn care less about is money in terms of competition. I don't care how much money you have. Like, I just don't care. Like, all I care about, really, I want to have enough money to do what I need to do for my family, make sure that we got some shelter, some clothes, food, insurance, just a plan, right? But I also want to be sure that other people have access to the same damn thing. Like, not all of us are going to be able to own a Maserati or a damn mansion. And I think that's okay. I think most people are okay with that. But I think a lot of people are not okay with people living on the streets. People not able to take their daughter or either themselves to a doctor's office to check on something that's been ailing them for a while, something that they're concerned about. It's just it's a travesty, man.
Yeah, and it's not. I don't think it's like the competitive trait that does it. It's maybe a corruption of the competitive trait, or an exploitation of the competitive trait, which kind of teaches people to compete for the wrong things.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like the separate groups that we're in, it's like my group is better than yours when it shouldn't be about that. Like, why are we in these groups competing about like who's better, like who's in a better situation, the overall situation? Like, just do, like, we're all human beings. Doesn't matter like what color we are, where we come from. The species is the damn same.
Before we forget, we want to kind of give a shout out to Dude Poop and Gerrymandering for sliding some money our way through the super chat. Appreciate that, guys. Always appreciate people supporting the channel, even if it's just a little change. Every little bit helps and every little bit counts. Appreciate that.
I'll say one more thing about, or I didn't really talk about religion. I don't begrudge anybody's religion. You know, anybody that has a particular faith, anybody that believes in God, more than one God. I mean, whatever you believe, I mean, that is perfect. If you believe it, man, I'm happy for you. If it gets you through some tough times, if it's just something that you believe, like, hey, you know, I'm gonna go through this life, and at the end, you know, I'm gonna go to this other type of life. I mean, it just doesn't matter. Whatever you believe in terms of religion, I have no problem with. What I have a problem with is when you use that religion to direct others' actions. You know, you use your religion to say this is how it should be for other people too.
Oh, so this is my experience, so therefore I'm going to that experience needs to be extrapolated across the board, across the world, and everybody must believe what I believe. So basically,
that's the problem with religion. But
basically, that kind of supports where Court was kind of going with this. It's a tool of control,
right?
And so,
and people that have the power to use it as a tool of control are able to get people to do exactly what they want them to do. You know, that's my problem with religion. I don't have a problem with people actually believing in something, because I mean, I've said it before. I'm not a religious dude. I'm not a religious dude. I've had a journey, and I've been through all different kind of stages into like really believing, into not believing at all, into like I don't know.
You just had to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, I had to figure out myself. So I don't begrudge anybody that believes a certain type of way. But when you say that this is the way it's got to be, let it be that way for you. Let it be that way maybe for your family. You know, if you say like you love your other, you love other people, your other members of your family, and you think this is the best way for them, you can teach them that. No problem. A lot of people influence other people that they're next to. I have no problem with that. They can go ahead and start believing it as well. When you try to use it as a tool to say you can't do this, you can't do that on a macro level, nope.
That kind of strikes me as a bit insecure, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you truly believe that, like, whatever you, I guess, believe as far as religion goes has merit, then you would not have to force people to follow it. You know what I mean?
Like, I think that's what Court was saying too. Like, we don't need religion to determine our morality. We don't need religion for us to determine what is immoral, what is unethical. It doesn't take the Bible, the Quran, whatever. It doesn't take that for me to determine that certain things are wrong or certain things are acceptable. It doesn't do that.
You know how I can tell that that's a true statement? Because there are plenty of decisions people make every day and have made without the Bible. Even people who believe in the Bible, they do not utilize the entire Bible in order to guide their life, which tells me that they are utilizing something else. They're
something that's already in them, right?
In some sort of internal barometer that I guess has developed over a period of time, where they've learned to, I guess, cause the least amount of harm to one another. Right. And that didn't take a book to come into existence for them to come to that. Again, every day we see people who are religious, who believe in some book, make decisions that didn't come from that book. They make moral decisions that didn't come from that book. So therefore, whatever it's governing them is not coming from the book. There go Angie. Humanists Unite. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you very much,
Slide
Angie.
some cheese our way. But yeah, I think that one of the most powerful things that Court said was, he said that people love God more than they love their neighbor or their father.
Yeah, man.
And I'm like, maybe because people's concept of God is all fucked up. Maybe they kind of projected the compassion and projected the attitude they should have, like, for those who they live around and the fellow man. Maybe they kind of like projected that to something in the sky, hoping that that thing would govern how they act, when actually it's just they should govern how they act to one another. You know what I'm saying?
I think a lot of people feel like they don't have a choice, you know, like the book is what it is, but they're not using all parts of the book, and we know that a lot of parts of the book are contradictory. So again, it is cherry picking. It's like, well, I'm going to use this because this is what I was told, or this is what I read, and I'm going to let that govern my life, even though certain other parts of the book contradict each other. But anyway, I'm going to, like I said, I got to do this because I want to get to heaven. I got to do this. It's, again, man, do you. I'm not going to badmouth religion or just how you know what people believe in. I've been to church, you know, many times, and on many occasions it's made me feel good, you know, because a lot of times you get a very uplifting message, right? Very uplifting message.
It's almost like an aphrodisiac.
It is,
but it's just you're in control of, like, you're still in control of that. I think people tend to act like present it as this thing where it's something that they're not in control of. I just got this feeling that came over to me. No, you were receptive to a message and you got a feeling of euphoria. It's no different than if you experience a song you like or a video game you like. It's like the same chemicals. It's the same chemicals running through your
And I think it's about the atmosphere too, man.
It's about the atmosphere.
You're around people that are, you know, I guess, receiving the same message. You know, you're, I guess, looking at things the same way. It is a feeling of community, you know, and it's like, hey, all of us are actually in this thing together. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling alive, you know. Hey,
yeah,
I'm uplifted.
It fulfills kind of like three of those human needs, like purpose, identity, and community. That fulfills all of them right there.
At one time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I totally get religion. I do get it, but again, you use it to put constraints, you know, on people. You use it to say that this is not allowable, or this is allowable because of the. It's just come on, man. It's all you're doing is using it as a tool. You're using it as a tool to control people.
I mean, didn't the Ku Klux Klan use the Bible?
They did, because they're a religious organization.
Yeah.
Especially here in the South too. I've known of, or I've heard. I haven't been to, but I've heard of certain like Baptist churches, white Baptist churches, that would tell racist jokes, would make fun of black people. You know. This is all in the name of religion.
Or attend a lynching right after church.
Yeah.
But they feel good about it, though. They justify it.
But this is the reason why we don't live in a theocracy, right?
Oh no, yeah. That's the very reason.
So we shouldn't cite the Bible as a reason to do anything as a government. I think that's all we got, man. Like I said, VQ, she said a lot of good things, man. And it's just how to get those small communities actually combined into like one big community. I've said before, it takes some kind of miraculous circumstance, some zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
Some, you know, just devastation. Maybe, like you said, maybe Trump knows something. Maybe there's an alien attack on the way. We're gonna have to all band together.
Specifically, a Starship Troopers type plot, alien attack involving big, huge bugs.
Oh, and you remember too during that movie too, they couldn't get enough soldiers. You remember? There was a massive call.
For soldiers.
I'm
just saying, ma'am, he can use clips from that movie.
And this is a sixth branch. So they're going to need soldiers.
They're going to, exactly.
They're going to need soldiers.
So I'm just saying, he can use, scenes from that movie in the promotional video, in the Space Command promotional video, Space Fleet.
Yeah. I don't know what he's going to call them. Yeah. Like I said, I called them the space. What is it? The Space Rangers.
Space Rangers. Yeah, Space Rangers. That's actually sounds perfect, man.
Space Rangers. I don't know, man. We gotta do something if we actually want to get together as a people, man, and actually just work towards the common good. I'm all for competition, man. I'll always be about competition, man. I'm not the best chess player, but don't beat me. Don't beat me at chess because I get mad. What else? Basketball. I don't like losing to my kids.
Yo, see,
nah.
That's why my sister don't play me in nothing, dog. She learned that, I think the last time we were involved in a competition, it was some card game. Mm-hmm. It was like a speed game where you had to be fast. And I beat her 38 times in a row. Yeah. And of course, when you're on a roll, you're like, let's play again. And you're not realizing that the other person's probably yo, this is getting ridiculous. I didn't care though because I was competitive. I just wanted to win. I was I counted too. 38 times. 38 times in a row. After that, I don't think she ever played me at anything. Because that was bad.
I remember way back.
Taking it too seriously, man.
Way back when I was probably about 20 years old at the time. And I used to play a whole lot of Madden football. I used to play it a lot. I was very good, very good. And I used to, Juan. Mutual friend, Juan.
Yeah.
Used to whip up. I used to whip his behind in Madden because he was never really a game player anyway. It would just be an annihilation. One time, he actually ended up beating me. It was a narrow victory. It was some lucky type stuff, right? This was back in the year 2000. He never played me again, dog.
Oh, because he was I am holding on to this because I don't ever want to give this up and give Will back the crown.
Yep, and he holds that over my head to this day, man.
It doesn't matter whether you beat him 155 times before,
and that's probably pretty accurate. 155 to 1.
Yeah, but since
it was the last time,
that's the only time that matters.
And I was begging for a rematch, dog. You can't. Nah, hold up. No, you can't put it down. Pick up the sticks, man. You can't put it down. Seriously, come on, man. No. Pick it up, man. Nope. Never played me again, man. So I agree. Yeah, competition. I think competition is healthy, but not when you're talking about people's livelihood. Not when you're talking about insurance and just the bare necessities. We don't need competition for that.
Competition for resources, LOL. Yeah, I remember me and a girlfriend back in the day. We went to play putt-putt, and I like to keep score, hard score. I don't just go out there with no sheets of paper. I count shots.
I would like to keep score too,
and I keep score. I'd be like, that was 5 shots. Oh, that was 5 strokes.
See, some people don't like that.
Oh, heck no. I'm like, that one counted. You tipped it, damn it, that counted. That's 2 strokes for me and 5 strokes for you.
Yep.
Don't you know, dog? I kept that shit in the glove box in the car. I kept it in the glove box as proof that I beat her.
I remember laser tag, man.
Oh,
I'm keeping them score sheets.
Matter of fact, I don't care if it's old ladies in the laser tag joint. Nah. I don't care if it's 5-year-olds. You get tagged.
Exactly, man. I'm here to win, man. But I ain't here to. Again, see, that's all fun and games, though. That's all healthy. That's all fun and games, man. When you talk insurance and shelter and clothing, it's amazing how people just can't do the right thing. People just can't do the right thing, man. They just can't do the right thing, man. It's 2018, man. When things gonna get better, I don't know. Appreciate everybody that joined us for this broadcast. We'll be back on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We hope that you will join us for that one. We'll have a brand new show, more topics to discuss. Maybe we'll be talking about this issue again, about the whole separating families. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere. And you know what, Trump, man, one thing I'll say about Trump, he can't get out of his own way, man. We talked about him leading from behind again, or just not leading from a position of strength. This is somebody that has already started campaigning for 2020, and now he's picked up this issue that liberals, conservatives all oppose him on. It's not a good look. It's not a good look, man. But that is Trump. Anyway, hope everybody has a good night, and we'll see you on Thursday, all right?
Thursday, 8
Peace
o'clock.
out, everybody.